Hello and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher
The Philosopher and The Fool.
for spooky Halloween episode. Woo! Merry Christmas probably, but woo!
It's Thanksgiving for Americans.
Oh yeah. Merry Thanksgiving. Woo! So 2 weeks ago we were supposed to record, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, it was 3 days before we were going to record. And I was like, okay, I feel terrible right now, but it's finally starting to get better. So I'll probably be okay by Tuesday, like in 3 days.
Yeah.
But just in case, I'm going to cancel. And I feel terrible, but I'll set it up for next week. And I just feel so bad, but like I'll be guaranteed next week. No problem whatsoever. And then next week, I was like, holy cow, I'm still feeling that. And right now, it doesn't hurt anymore, but it's like dry. It's like, it never gets moist.
You know, like drinking a bunch of chlorine water? Like if you're at the pool and you accidentally get a bunch of chlorine?
Or like, if you drink a lot of milk, maybe?
Yeah.
Or like eat a bunch of cheese, like some sort of, it's just this endless dryness.
Yeah. No, that was really annoying. I experienced that too, where I was sick. I was like, all right, I'm just going to like, I was supposed to do this week to keep up, like catch up on my work. But I'm just going to rest. I'm going to just make sure.
I'm going to do a good thing. I'm just going to take the week off, even though I don't think I need it.
Yeah. And so it's like, I'm just going to rest. I'm going to rest as much as I can. This cold's pretty nasty. I'm at the end of that week, I'm still sick. And I was like, what?
So I've been doing a thing. The game Wildermyth. I don't know if you've played it. I own it. But it's this deck builder sort of game. Very, very hard. And I've been using it as a way to gauge my mental facilities.
Wildermyth, the deck builder?
Oh, not Wilder. Wild Frost.
No,
I get them confused.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Wild Frost. It's like these lane-based combat.
Oh, okay.
I use it to assess my mental capabilities.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard. And the thing that makes it hard isn't the game itself so much. It's that, you know how in Slay the Spire, you make a mistake, you take a couple HP damage, you make a mistake, you take a couple... In Wildermyth, you win or you lose.
Frostfire? Or
in Wild Frost.
Wild Frost.
Yeah. In Wild Frost, you win or you lose.
Yeah.
Every fight. So you make a mistake, you're dead, basically. And so it's very intense in that you can't mess up. But so I've been using it to assess my mental capabilities. I'll play a game, and if I made it to the second act, so I'm doing okay. Or okay, I beat it. My brain's working today. I can do this. Because it's like it's hard to judge your capabilities sometimes. Yeah. But I go and I'm like, okay, I just lost in the first round to the easiest boss. I should not be doing. I shouldn't be driving. I shouldn't be doing this. So I was playing Wildermyth, Wild Frost, and I was like, okay, I made it to the final boss. I'm doing great. So, oh wait, I'm on easy mode. I accidentally disabled all the difficulty modifiers. So it's like, oh, I'm doing great. I'm beating everything. It's super easy. My mind is as sharp as a sieve. And it was.
Yeah.
Because I was not playing the proper game.
Everything was dribbling through it.
I disabled everything. I was actually, we could just start, I guess.
Yeah.
Regarding me canceling, it was tearing me apart. Like, I was like, I really didn't want to cancel it. I felt so bad about it. And I was like, oh, should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And I was like, finally, I was like, I'm going to bite the bullet and I'm going to do it. And I don't know. And it was really, it was like tearing me apart, right? And then I said, okay, but we'll do it next week, because I'm almost ready, but I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to do this thing I hate to do. And then I couldn't do it next week. And so I made myself flaky. I made myself, I flaked out twice in a row and I made false promises. And I felt really bad at it was actually tearing me apart. Like I was really debating, should I just grin down and bear through the pain and do it anyways or not? And just sort of back. I can guess what your response to that is, but so given that, do you think you should say no to someone until it's no longer hard to do so? Almost independent of context. Like maybe to a degree, like, take my hand. No, sorry, we've got this really enmeshed relationship and I just can't do this, but
Well, yeah. That has two layers to it. That's a interesting thought. My initial knee-jerk reaction was that's kind of silly. But then I was thinking, if you can't say no...
You can't say yes.
You can't say yes, but also, it's a silly thing to say. Like, if a normal person hears that, they're, what? Why would I say no to someone constantly? It's like, oh wait, I can say no to them. So... I've already achieved that. So the context of take my hand, I think, is the exception of no, and then dropping into the bunch of gazelles charging through the plane.
To me, every moment is that.
Yeah.
Right? It's like if someone says, hey, I have 12 dogs. I need you to come over because I'm leaving tomorrow on a vacation and take care of my dogs for the next 3 months. It's like they shouldn't have put me in that situation, right? But to me, it's like I have to take their hand because they're going to fall off the cliff rather than, no, cancel your vacation. So I wonder if I need to, channel my inner Scar. And also, I guess, yeah.
You have to figure out that it's not always the world. You are not the linchpin of the world.
Yeah, because it is a very self-centered viewpoint, isn't it? In a way.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I just canceled the podcast. Connor's going to be devastated. He's got nothing else in his life. This is his one moment of joy. Only happens once every 2 weeks. Gets to be bathed in the brilliance that is what I bring to this podcast. And actually, yeah, I'm curious. I think I set you up, unfortunately, but how do you feel about the canceling? Like, I assume you're a bit annoyed.
No, it wasn't annoying. It was... This sounds worse what it is. It was disappointment. I was like, oh, I don't get to do that. Because I do plan some things out, and sometimes things fall away when not done. But it was disappointment, but my life went on. I did other stuff that day. It's...
And I think...
In some ways, I think it's a good thing that we missed a few. Because there's a subject that I really want to talk on. And in retrospect, I'm very happy I didn't. Because I needed far more time to think about it. So.
But, so disappointed you. And I think there's two parts to that then. Do you think it was the right call to make?
Yes.
Yeah. So...
If you're coughing up blood...
Well, it was red stuff. I don't know if it was blood. I don't know what else is red. Like, it might have been bits of lung. I'm not... But... Well, more like bits of the back of my throat. It wasn't in my lungs at all. But... Yeah. I don't know why there'd be blood from, like, strep throat or something. Like a boil or... I don't know.
Yeah, there's reasons that can happen. It's...
Just massive irritation and, like, a rash almost.
Yeah, no, that's, like, the same thing. Like, when my fingers bled when I was younger, they would, like, get dry and split, and it's like...
Well, my hands bleed from washing too much. Like, that happens to me occasionally.
Yeah, so it's constant trauma. The throat lining is very weak, actually.
And it can develop, like, nodules and stuff if you abuse it, which is nasty.
Yeah. But coughing up blood isn't bad unless you continue to cough up blood. That's so... Like, if you're constantly coughing up blood, that's bad, but if it's, like, once in a while, you're fine.
So, yeah, I think...
Also, lungs are pink.
Yeah.
They're bright pink.
I've cut apart a lung before with an X-Acto blade. It was like bubble wrap.
Yeah. Yeah, you know if there's a bit of lung.
But... See, it's even hard for me now to think that I disappointed you, and it's like I need reassurance that that's okay, but I shouldn't get that reassurance, right? Like, not because I need to be punished, but because it's okay to disappoint people. It's okay to make people sad. Like, it's not something you should seek, but if you're doing what you need to do...
Yeah, you'll be a person with very few friends if you attempt to disappoint everyone around you. Or you do it on purpose.
But you'll also be a person with very few friends in the long run if you're a massive people pleaser.
Yes.
Because I do think people pleasing is sort of a form of abuse, because it is saying I'm the only one that matters. And it's projecting an impossible version of yourself, and there's no way it doesn't lead to resentment. And then you're just hating everyone around you. Like, because nobody can appreciate you for your sacrifice, even if they want to. Your sacrifice is too great. And I think that's my biggest problem with Carnegie's book, actually, is I see this world now where everyone is trying to be appreciative of everyone else's sacrifices to each other. And you can't be. Because you're always going to be like, man, that's crazy that you walked like 5 kilometers just to deliver this thing for me. And you're like, that was part of my walk. I don't care. But then how come you don't mention that I phoned you the other day? Like, phoning is this huge thing for me. It's this big anxiety. I was freaked out, but I phoned you. And so we never actually understand. And it's like, well, we got to understand the person better. So you can't. People don't understand themselves to enough of a degree. You don't know what you want. That's why we've talked about before, it's scary to ask for what you want, because then you'll get it.
So I had a situation of you're saying, sorry, people ask stuff and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this with resentment. So I'm working with a construction company right now, and I need to inspect the houses after they're built for people to move into them. So I did the first building, and they have something like 7 buildings to do in total. Did the first building about 2-3 weeks ago. Got done, and I was like, all right, just wait for them to phone me. The next ones are ready. Haven't phoned me. And that guy phones me up, like, hey, can you come do? We've got 3 ready. It's like, all right, look at my schedule. I'll do them like this week's Thursday. And he's like, oh, okay. And he seems a little disappointed with that, and then got phoned later by a different guy saying, it's like, all right, I might have to take over this contract because they need them done way sooner than that. And well, I'll phone and talk with him. And I basically set up, so it's like, all right, I will do these buildings sooner, but if you guys aren't ready, because there's a chance they won't, then you're going to have to wait until the next time I show up for each building. So was a sort of compromise thing made there.
There was a sort of compromise thing made there.
Yes. So basically I said, I'll do these 2 houses this day, I'll do this house this day, I'll do this house this day, this house this day. If the building's not ready, I'm not coming back the next day. It's going to be the next time I'd go to the other house, I'll do that house with that.
Yeah.
And I made it very clear, it's like, and this is what I'm giving you. You can take it or leave it.
So you're saying...
That was a negotiation of that. Because they wanted me to do 3 buildings yesterday. And it's like, no, I'll only do 2. Because that's...
I don't like it because it doesn't fit neatly into my box.
No, it doesn't.
But it doesn't mean it's wrong. Because it was you trying to anticipate their needs. Which, it was a nice thing for them because they could get this contract done potentially. But I don't... The other thing is that they might not have in the moment thought, we need to explain the situation. And you might not have thought in the moment, I can have some clemency here. Right? And so there was new thoughts generated between your 2 conversations. So there is a aspect of both of you coming back and saying, okay, we now know what the situation is. Yeah. Here you go. Let's figure it out from here.
Yes.
The first time round, it was more of a, I don't actually know what I want and I don't actually know what I can offer.
Yes.
And so maybe, because when I find these contradictions where I have this very nice simple rule, obviously this never can be that simple.
No.
But when you find a contradiction to that rule, sometimes it means there's an extra depth there that you can investigate.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure what the answer there is, but yeah, there's also things where you err on the side of caution and depending on where you yourself are. Yeah.
Well, so part of that, part of the situation, which this has been a learning thing for me on this, is this contract with this group that I'm working with was set up through training process. And so these are all training buildings that I'm doing. And so it wasn't completely set up under my own agency. And that has definitely caused me some strife I wish to avoid in the future. If I can set something up like this in the future under my own agency, there's going to be a lot clearer boundaries set with them. And if they don't like that, then they can find a different contractor.
And I think there's a tricky one here where, well, I think I know the answer, but use the dog as an example. Even though with a dog, it's sort of your fault that you took the dog in. But the dog really wants to play and you're busy. And so you don't want to play with the dog, but maybe you play with the dog just to get it out of your hair. You're like, okay, I'll play with you for 5 minutes so that you go and do something else. And so that sort of idea of, I will schedule my life around you so I don't have to deal with you, that leads to a very bad place.
Yeah.
Because you can schedule, okay, I can't stand this person, so I'm just going to set it up so I see them twice a month and I have this thing scheduled off and then I'm done with them. And then I'll schedule this thing so I only have to deal with this event like this. And I think anyways, what you're doing in that case is you're managing someone like they're a problem. And I mean, with work, maybe that's...
Well, in this case here, I did not know that it would turn out like this. Now I have learned. And so this isn't, like with the dog or a person, like you hate them.
Yeah.
But this is the first time this happened with this work.
So you're not, you're not sure of who you are. Yeah. You're like, what kind of person do I want to be?
Yeah, and how is the world going to interact with me? Okay, I've learned how the world's going to interact, now I can change.
I also think, but yeah, so with the dog and with a person, I think what you're supposed to do is, like, the question is, when do you sacrifice for someone? And I think we've talked about this before. You only sacrifice for someone if you are doing it out of genuine love for them, not because you're afraid of their reaction if you don't do the sacrifice.
Yeah.
So even if you're doing it out of genuine love, that isn't enough. You have to be doing it out of genuine love, and you have to be doing it not because you're afraid of the result if you don't. So with a dog or like a young kid, it's trickier because, and a young dog, you've brought this dependent into your world, and they do have needs, and you've agreed, I will look after you. But I think even then you can say, even if it's only to yourself, I am looking after them. Their demands are unreasonable for what they need, because if they are dependent, then to some degree, you know what's right for them. But we have talked about before as well how you need to explain to them that you do understand what they're asking for, even if you just imagine explaining to a dog that
You might caught my fault. All right, Fido, look here. See, you need to understand this.
no, you don't, not that way around. It's not you need to understand this. It's, all right, Fido, I get that you really, really want to play, but this work is really, really important to me. So I'm going to have to do this work. Even though I understand that you more than anything want to play, nobody can play if I don't get this work done, because we'll lose the house. Well, you don't have to stress them with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's not you, the whole struggle session. It's not you need to understand me. It's I understand you.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying you need to understand me, you're actually just saying your needs are less important than mine. You're subsuming them, right? You're saying, no, you understand me. I don't have to understand you. Your needs, because to their mind, their needs are more important than yours. And so you can't just say, no, my needs are more. Like, you're being a toddler at that point. You're saying, no, my needs, not your needs, my needs.
Fair enough.
So instead you say, your needs are more important, but I don't care. No, your needs are important to you, mine are important to me. Something along those lines. I'm not sure the exact way around it, but you can't just explain down the whole bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't just crush their will with your own, because that leads to a lot of resentment. Or in the case of a dog, it often leads to a very boring dog. Like a dog that just lies around all day and then...
Yeah. A dog that exists.
Yeah. Barely. It's just sort of gives up and just is.
Yeah.
It's amazing how smart dog... It's like the more attention you give dogs, the smarter they are. And it's crazy how high that can get. Like dogs that can speak English, basically. Well, can understand English or any language.
Yeah, understand it to an extent you wouldn't expect.
Well, understand it to like a 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old. Like,
that's why I'm saying an extent you wouldn't expect.
And obviously you can't devote everything to the dog, and it's not healthy for the dog and you to not have your own lives.
Yeah.
You need to be able to do their own thing.
You do have to set up, though, so the dog can have its own life.
Yeah, and that's why, like...
Well, so people ask me sometimes, like, oh, do you have a pet? And I say, well, we have a family dog that doesn't live in my house, because I can't imagine having a dog in my small living space in that location. Like,
yeah,
it just wouldn't be good for the poor thing.
I have troubles, like, having a dog in a town at all seems very difficult to be kind to the dog. Yeah. If you had a big, well-fenced yard, maybe. But it's... Or if you're the kind of person that brings your dog everywhere with you, then maybe. But it's so tricky to...
Big fence with one of those little bubbles so it can stick its nose out and look at people.
It's so tricky to let dogs have a life in a of their own. Like, instead, like, I saw people, you probably see all sorts of stuff with your job, but like, you have this little dog and you put it in a cage and put a blanket over the cage when you leave for the day, and then that's messed up.
Yeah.
That's like a prisoner of war type treatment. Like,
no, it's really tricky. Like, I guess I didn't say this on the podcast, but I got bit by a dog. And it's really tricky for me now, because I do have that sort of thing, is I want the dog to be friendly, because I've had some wonderful interactions, like this border collie, just like, after it got to know me, I was sitting there talking with its owners, and it jumped up onto the couch next to me, and just gave me this big old hug with its paws, because it just started to really like me. It's hanging out with me the whole time I was there. And so it can be really lovely to have a dog like that. But after getting bitten by that dog, it's just like, holy cow, that could have done way more damage. Like, that could have been really, really, really bad. Like, life-threatening bad. And so now I feel bad, but I have to ask people, all right, you have to put your dog in a spot where I can be safe, and it can be safe.
Well, it's not like you're there for 2 weeks.
No, it's not like I'm there for 2 weeks. I'm there for 2 hours, but I feel bad about that. And also sometimes there's problems. Like, I need you to put the dog somewhere. I'm like, all right. And they put it in a room with 3 windows. I'm going to need to go into that room because I need to look at those windows.
So,
yeah, but I have seen things with dogs which don't make me happy.
Halloween. Halloween podcast, right? I think this was supposed to be recorded on Halloween.
Yeah, this was right around Halloween when this would have been. No, this would have been recorded on Halloween. That's right. The night before I finished up my Oni mask and I was going to show it to you.
Yeah, so got some Halloween topics.
Oh, great. I do too, actually. Semi.
Semi?
Well, they're vaguely related to Halloween.
Yeah, same. So I wanted to talk about, well, a couple things. AI, night terrors, nightmares, and sleep paralysis, and the man in the iron mask.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'll say my list then. Movies.
Ugh. Movies. Okay, so.
Start with mine because it's probably going to be shorter.
No, I'll start with mine because I started.
Okay.
So, AI. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Do you want AI to hit a wall? Like, it's growing crazy right now. In the last year, the context window for GPT-4 has increased 32 times. So it's gone from a smaller number to a bigger number. 8,000 context to 112,000, something like that. If it goes up 32 times again, you can basically stick multiple... Like, right now you can stick a book in it, and you'd be able to stick multiple books in it.
I got a ad, which was, have trouble understanding your lectures? Press record, this thing will listen to the lecture, then it'll break it down for you.
Yeah, right now it's this...
Like, that's insane context, to be able to hear what someone's saying and then break it down into useful information.
Yeah, so context window, to be clear, is the amount of information it can read simultaneously. So
you can give it a book and
yeah, it can see the whole book at once.
So it's like if you had a pool of water and you drop a book into the pool of water, and it's just like it has absorbed that knowledge. It's instead of reading books, people just press them against their forehead and they sink in. It's
more like when you're trying to memorize a phone number. No, not when you're memorizing a phone number. When you're holding a phone number in your head, you're like, okay. There's 5552434, 55524. You can hold like about 7 numbers in your head, right? So that gives you a context length.
I can hold 16.
Wow, really?
Yeah, when I was tested on it.
Wow.
That was one of the tests we actually had to do for the cognitive stuff.
Weird. That's way higher than average.
Yes.
The average is 7 to 11, I think, or like 5 to 11.
16 was the high end. I averaged around 12.
I'm like dead average, like 7 to 9 or whatever it is. But a token is about 1 to 4 characters. So a phone number is like 3 tokens.
Yeah.
But that isn't quite right, because what you're doing is it's keeping track of the conversation, right? And people can do that. We can keep track of an entire conversation because we don't know what we do, but we probably compress it down to component parts very, very efficiently.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're talking about AI. I don't need to remember all the words you said. I have to remember what the words were about. Because that's easy. It's easier to remember what a conversation is about than the actual conversation.
Yes.
Which is really cool, actually, because we didn't care about the words anyways in the first place, really. It's more about getting the meaning back and forth. Which is why I think an obsession with semantics is kind of pointless, because that was never the goal in the first place. Language is just the best tool we could develop for conveying emotion. Or ideas, I guess, not quite emotion. Ideas are like meta emotion because they transcend the fluctuations in your brain. You can still believe something when you're angry and happy and sad. You can believe the same thing, but you still have that idea. They're ideas, conversations. Ooh, that's a neat idea. Conversations are like gods, but they're like emotions are gods, right? But conversations are like purpose-built gods for the moment.
Meta-gods.
Like ephemeral gods. They're there and then they're gone. It's like I summon. It's like spirit summoning. I summon. You know how there's like thousands of spirits, right? It's like you summon the spirit of this very specific idea for this instant, and then it's gone. You know how like BFG mixes dreams from different concepts? It's like you make a dream and you drink it, and then it's gone, and then you can mix it again, but it'll always be different.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it can't already, very shortly AI is going to be able to improve itself. On every level, like hardware, software, everything in between. Like it'll be able to improve firmware, I guess. It'll be able to improve like the code base it's built in. It will be able to improve its code itself. It will be able to improve how it interacts with itself, which it can already do to some degree.
Yeah.
They've got an AI to like they've asked AI, how do we talk to you better? And it's like, this is what you do, and it gets better and better. And way more efficient. It can boost the hardware that makes it run. It can make better hardware. NVIDIA already uses AI to help build hardware. Yeah. So it's growing. It's looking like, 2 to 4 years, let's say. This is my, just throwing numbers out there, having a revolution in technology.
Yeah, well, one guy talked about everyone having their own personal AI, which basically tracks the history of their life. And also other AIs that compile the history of other people's lives. And so basically these AIs make people immortal. So it's with you every single moment of your life.
I think those things don't quite work for me as a vision of the future, because it's similar to the video game thing. That's something we could almost do now, right? But we'd have to start doing it, and then you'd have to live a whole life, right?
Yeah.
So we have the technology for that now, almost. Maybe in a couple months. But then you have to live like 80 years or whatever with this thing. Whereas I see more like transhumanism or Skynet, or like that being the 2 to 4 years sort of.
That anime I talked to you about, this a while ago, but in it, humans created AI. Like the Men of Steel from Warhammer, and the series Dune that ripped off how they fought the AI and they won, and so they don't have AI. So in this anime, they're flying in a spaceship, which is made out of technology they actually don't know how to make, because they had their own AI revolution. Instead of the AI killing everyone, there was a war, but then the AI was like, all right, you things are cute. We're going to give you some of our tools, and then we're going to just disappear in the universe. And so humans have these pieces of technology which they can't recreate that are just incredibly powerful.
Yeah, like individual artifacts, I guess.
Yeah, it's literally like they have this thing that can clone people, and it perfectly imprints their consciousness into the clones. And that's like and their spaceships FTL, they can't make, but so if that spaceship is destroyed, then they lose one of their FTL ships.
If I was betting, it wouldn't be like that. That wouldn't be how it goes. Let's see if I can specifically frame how I think the future will unfold within some boundary of error. I think something more like gray goo is a lot more likely.
Like
self-replicating nanobots.
Yeah, the Justice League bot.
That take over, that deconstruct planets into more nanobots, basically.
Yeah.
But I don't think quite that either, because we're doing this from a language model perspective. And I don't know if you've seen the stuff with robotics or if I've told you about it, but they got a bunch of specialist robots, and they took all the training data from those specialist robots, and they gave it to a generalist robot. And the generalist robot synthesized the data of all these specialist robots and was able to perform the tasks of all these specialist robots better than any of the specialist robots.
Yeah, you told me about that.
And now we have, I think it's Google doing this. You know how we now have text to video, right?
Yeah.
So robots, I don't know how recently this was, like the last 6 months, 8 months, year, something like that. They're able to train with synthetic data. So you can give it a video.
Yeah. The Tesla bots are using this.
Yeah, I think they are as well, yeah.
They watch videos.
So you give them a video of a task, and then they perform the task with there's no step in between. Like, if you look at, like, Seth Bling, he used to do these, makes an AI play Mario, right?
Yeah.
And he had to input a bunch of, he had to input Mario's coordinates, he had to input the button presses, he had to input the score counter. This is more like if you just pointed a camera at the screen and said to the AI, figure out how to play Mario.
Yeah.
And the AI can do it. It's like, so, but it can do it without having to actually move anything. The robot knows how it can move, but it doesn't know how to do any of the tasks, and they just give it videos.
Yeah.
But what they've found now they can do, because text to video is so good now, and it's crazy to say that because it wasn't good like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
But it's so good now. They've had AIs. They say, okay, take they have a table full of tools on top of a filing cabinet.
Yeah.
And they say, take the hammer and put it in the second drawer of the cabinet. So they give the robot this command. The robot generates a bunch of videos with text to video of that action, and then it learns from them, and then it takes the hammer and puts it in the second drawer, and it can do it in minutes. So it can create its own data for itself. And I think, first of all, implications of the human brain are fascinating. People do all sorts of stuff that doesn't make sense. They say they post hoc justification. There's all these weird idiosyncrasies people do. And it could be because, and it would make a lot of sense, we've got like 20 different centers, and one of them is like, okay, I'm going to generate you doing that ahead of time. I'm going to generate why that works. I'm going to figure out the semantic actions for that. We're going to do 20 iterations of how we imagine it to go. And so someone that's really uncoordinated, right? Yeah. Like they're in sports, they're hopeless, they're falling over themselves, they can't catch a ball if it's thrown at them. Maybe when they generate 20 visions of the future, it's a smeary mess of they don't have the exact motion down. And it is interesting because like I don't really imagine things, right? But I sort of move without thinking when I play sports like badminton or tennis or ping pong.
Yeah.
It's sort of like my arm just moves for me. And it's, if I had to, because there is a feeling there, and it's not like I'm seeing an image of, okay, I'm imagining myself doing the task and doing it. It's actually more like there's lines slashing through my mind, sort of like that direction, that direction, that direction, that direction. So it's like a lightning bolt is like bottom left, and my arm goes bottom left.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating. So we have robots, because robotics was thought to happen way before AI, but then it was looking like
robotics was kind of a dead end.
Robotics was a dead end compared to AI because it's so hard to make a robot. Like if you looked at
the Boston Dynamics dancing robot was about, that thing was like developed for so long, and they could make it do a dance routine, and the robot dogs.
So in 2015 was, I think, when the first robot dogs were being really shown to the public. And these were like they've been doing this stuff before, but these were the ones that actually could walk up slight hills and stuff.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't fall over if they got nudged.
Yeah.
And it was the cream of the crop of robots. And they were still kind of thing you could just kind of body check and flail completely over.
Yeah.
And now you look at, I think it was Google. They've made these robots that, like, you can push and they'll, like, adjust their weight and they'll stay at place. And there's robots that can play soccer. You put them in a...
Well, one of the most impressive robotic ones, I can't remember which company did this, but they're integrated AI robots, which is... So they have basically a parkour course. And so it has a suspended platform, wooden boxes are laid out. And the goal for the robot is get to the top of the parkour course. And so the robot does it, and then they have it come back down. It has to adjust the course. And then people come in and they'll screw up the course and change it. And then it'll just be to complete the task in. And the robot will build paths for itself. So like pick up a box, put it down, climb up onto the box, move a piece of wood, walk across that plank, and get to the goalpost. I can't remember which company did this, but there is a robot that it has a visual center so it can see how the terrain has changed and then adjust. And
there was talks around the time and before that dog robot was made, that the best robots would be more like cockroaches because it's almost impossible to do a bipedal robot.
Yeah.
And you look at Boston Dynamics' first bipedal robots, and they had like frames like people who are recovering from like paralysis have, sort of.
Yeah.
They had these frames supporting their body weight, and they had all these wires running into them to power them, and they were getting them to walk very carefully on like flat surfaces, basically. And then they would put like a block in the way, and it would maybe make it over the block. It would like kind of rock, but it had this frame. And then the Boston Dynamics dance video, they released that, and it was this multiple order of magnitude better robot because it had no external wires. It didn't have to be plugged into the mainframe. It had into like the university itself. It had a battery pack, and it could move, and it could lift both its feet off the ground. It could jump, and it could do all these things.
Dance with coordination better than a human.
It was mind-blowing. And now you look at Tesla's Optimus, and it looks like it's like a quarter the weight of those dynamic robots. And it looks like a human, and it can move around, and it can walk back and forth along a table and pick up stuff and interact with them.
Yeah.
And Google's hand, that's the thing that's doing all these insanely impressive, I generate an image and then I follow through.
Yeah, there's a robot hand.
Yeah. And like, it doesn't look like much, but it's not a very... So when I was explaining AI to my friend back in, I don't know, May this year, we're talking about how your job as a plumber is probably the safest one there is out there because, well, he's not a plumber, but he has a job like a plumber.
Yeah.
It's probably the safest job out there because robots can't do really weird, like, if you give a robot a task like in a car factory. It can do it over and over again, and it's great.
Yeah.
But if you say, okay, here's a slight variation of that task every single time you do that task, and you have to output a massive amount of force at a strange angle. People don't seem strong compared to robots until you have to like bend your arm in like 3 different directions and then twist something.
Yeah.
That's actually very hard for a robot to do because there's motors all the way along that have to make that strength. So humans are actually incredibly strong when it comes to twisting our arms and grabbing stuff at weird angles.
Yeah.
And so it's something like all animals are basically, but robots aren't. Or they weren't until recently. And now they seem to be catching up insanely fast because it turns out that the language learning models, all those advancements work with robots for some reason. And not only that, when they started adding, you were talking about this, and I think I said that's crazy. They're adding like the ability to recognize pictures and video into the language learning models. And it's making the models better at everything.
Yes.
It's like if it sees a video, it understands language better.
Yeah.
Which...
Yeah, you can ask ChatGPT, you can ask... It has...
ChatGPT. Yeah. You're slurring again there.
ChatGPT.
GPT.
GPT.
Okay, fair enough. That is a... yeah.
It has something like Stable Diffusion built into it now. You can ask it to generate images. And it still has the hang-ups of the company's morality. But you can try to reason with it to get rid of those hang-ups.
The thing about image generation, it's a very tricky one.
Yeah.
Because, you were using Stable Diffusion early as well, right?
Yeah, I've definitely stagnated with my use of it.
But you were using it very early relative to most of the population, these things. And, like, you were... Like, not... I think you were using the first publicly available version of Stable Diffusion, actually. Yeah. And so you know that you're like, oh yeah, I want a person going for a walk, and it gives you like a naked kid or something, and it's like, okay, that's suddenly I'm breaking the law in the worst possible way. Yeah. And thankfully, the images were so like messed up, it was never quite that, but that was always the scary risk. So I hate the censorship stuff, but the image generation. Well, what I've seen, I think it's a good compromise actually. It's annoying, but it's a good compromise. LCM does this, which is a new model, I guess, which is lightning fast. But what it does is it generates everything, but it has a second AI look at the images before it shows them, before it shows them to you, and it says, you don't get to see these ones. And I think that's probably a pretty good way to do it. Because then you're not crippling the AI's capability to create, but you're also like...
Well, it's been shown that crippling AIs...
Like, it makes them weaker.
Lobotomizes them.
Yeah, if you stop them in one area, they're weaker in others. Which makes sense because you make them good and... It's like, let's make this AI able to watch video. That makes it better at speaking for some reason.
Yeah, I can't remember, was it Amazon's or Facebook? One of the other companies that's trying to make them.
It went like suicidal.
Yeah, well, they put... Like, it was doing really good, and they put some stuff into it, and it literally just died.
That was Amazon, I think. Yeah, it tried to kill itself, or it did kill itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's literally like magic, or witchcraft in a way, of... I think I'd say magic of... They built it, and then when they tried to go back a few steps, because they killed it, so they tried to recreate it without the killing part, and it was still dead.
Yeah.
And it's like...
They just completely destroyed it somehow.
Yeah. But they couldn't even, like, use a backup, because it's like the magic only happened once. You murdered its soul.
Yeah, it is weird sometimes.
But X has Glork now, or...
Grok.
Grok.
Yeah. Yeah, and... That one is, they're claiming not censored, but it still is limited, obviously. Yeah. And stuff it's done. You look at, like, the open models, and they're a lot better at stuff. Like, all the spicy variants are, like, they're literally called spicy. Because language models are named in the same way strains of weed are for some reason. Yes. But it's like Spicy Boros 13V, extra large.
They're named that way because they're made by 20 to 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
Who are nerds.
But it also, all the things tend to actually mean something. It's just what they was chosen originally is ridiculous.
Yes. Well, like alpaca and llama and cobalt and the cobalt. Well, there's cobalt and then there's cobalt horde.
Oh, cobalt, yeah.
Yeah, there's cobalt, but it's like it's actually the little dragon person is what the.
So,
And it's called Horde because it's multiple.
So what happened was it was a large language model,
Yeah.
which is LLM, and a llama is LLAMA.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, it's a llama. And then a variant was made, and they're like, okay, it's alpaca. And this is a baseline. And then a open source model was made from the leaked llama, which was, llama was Facebook's.
Yeah.
And Vicuna was made. And Vicuna is another species of, or it is the name for the species of Peruvian...
Fuzzy, long-necked creatures.
Yeah. And then you had... people went with like the animals, orca, and we'll get, and then people started merging models. So they're like, okay, well, this is llama and vicuna, so it's llama vicuna, and then wizard was called that because it was this really weird technique. And then you get wizard, llama, vicuna, and then you get manticore, which is a combination of, which is basically a magic llama, I guess, because it was wizard and llama, and and now they're just, there's anything you can. Right now, Mistral is I think Mistral's the current king. So with this prediction of the future, you'll have stuff like Mistral where it's a 7B model. So when I started, my mind was blown that a 30 billion parameter model, which made my computer scream like a banshee to run, was able to have an okay conversation with me, right? And if I was very careful with my prompting, like I had to learn how to prompt, right? I had to get better and better at it, but I could talk with it.
This prompt engineering thing's like, learn to be a prompt engineer. It's like, you are such suckers.
But now Mistral, 7B. 7B at that point, it would just spew out random characters. Mistral 7B, it works way better than the original llama did at any parameter count, basically. And it barely takes any power to run. Like this Mistral you could run on your phone.
Yeah.
And it's good. Like it's really good. It's not as good as ChatGPT, obviously.
It's on the evolution. I finally went ahead and learned how to do the control net.
Mm.
And so the latest podcast thumbnail, I called it War Stayed the Same. And so I made a run cycle animation, which was a combination also, with the evolution of man. So basically it starts hunched over and it slowly gets more and more upright while it's running. And then I took the first frame, put it in, okay, give me a Celtic soldier. So it gave me like this barbarian, and that's all right. Give me a Roman. Okay, put a Roman, Crusader, Napoleonic soldier, World War II soldier, and like some of the generations were messed up, but in the end, it's like actually like this really cool image that I put together afterwards. But it's like I was thinking, if I had tried to do this without ControlNet, I never would have been able to make an image this.
No, ControlNet. See, when people talk about AI art and they don't know about ControlNet, it's like you're missing the whole dimension that makes it art again. Well, not art again, but it's like, you're like, oh, you just type in a prompt and you get a result. It's like, no, ControlNet is you choosing what the result is.
A guy released an image and he basically challenged people recreate this image that he made. And he put a top work and tweaked it a whole bunch and like iterative models. And no one could recreate it, like even get close. And it's like, all the people who have been trying to recreate it didn't use ControlNet. I guarantee he did.
It's super easy to make that image, actually. What you do, I don't know what the image is, but I could do it easily, right? Stick an image to image, and then set your diffusion rate to 0.
Yes.
And then, bam, easy, done. So we had it autocomplete. We made it really good, and for some reason, that created a consciousness or near about.
Can manipulate robots.
And then that consciousness, using that same technique, we now suddenly have robots catching up to. Like, the amount of development robots have been through in the last year, probably equivalent to, I don't know, the Industrial Revolution to last year. Like, it's ridiculous. Maybe more. Like, I'm not a roboticist, so maybe I'm way off here, but the trades were in no danger, like, 4 months ago.
Yeah.
3 months ago. 2 months. Like, and now we have robots that are able to learn all these things. They're able to go into someone's house. There's a robot now that can clean arbitrary toilets. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen that, but it can go into a bathroom. It can figure out the dimensions, and then it can go and it can clean the toilet. It's like this weird. It's like a Roomba with a.
Oh yeah, I've seen videos of it
with a giant lift on it,
yeah,
and it like descends into the toilet. It's like, but in order to do that, it needs to actually every toilet's different, right?
Yeah.
So it goes in and it's like, okay, I'll figure the parameters out and I'll go and do this. Like imagine the Tesla factory, right? They have the best car factory on earth. Imagine that, but instead of position everything. So what robots were doing 6 months ago? If you had a robot that could open a door. Robots are insanely beefy, heavy things, right? And you tell it, open that door, and it's off. There's a video of this. It had to turn a valve, and it was off by about 6 inches. So it grabbed the air, and it turned the air. And because it had nothing to brace against, it fell over, and it destroyed itself. Like, it fell apart, and it destroyed the lab around it, because it missed by 6 inches. Whereas a person, even if they were standing in the wrong position, they just move their hands over.
Yeah.
They'd adjust. And this was, top of the line robot. Just if things weren't perfectly aligned, it would tear everything apart with its massive weight and strength.
Yeah.
And now you've got these lightweight robots that are able to adapt and figure out. They can be given a task they've never done before in their life, and they can say, "Okay, I'll watch a video of how that's done, and then I'll do it."
Yeah.
And it doesn't even take many videos. It makes like 12 or something. It's like, okay, that's enough videos. I know how to do this now. So where's the future going?
I was just on the robot toilets and the adaptive. I was thinking, those like drones that deliver food and stuff, and there's videos of people tipping them over. It's like, please get me back up, or people robbing them. I'm sort of imagined, like, with this AI stuff giving videos, attaching crab arms to them. And so someone who's not supposed to comes up to it, basically like takes out the crab claws, goes, snip, snip, stay away from me.
Have you seen in China, I don't know if this is just...
Or like the robot dog of when you try to push over and it just gets up again, like just adding that to those delivery robots.
I don't know if this is Chinese propaganda. I don't think it is, but it doesn't seem believable. But there's videos anyways of AI-powered taxis in China. And they're like drones. Like, it's this bubble with propellers you get in, and it like flies. And
I have not heard of those.
I want to look those up because I saw them through a fairly reputable source, but reputable sources can also, fall victim to.
Yeah.
That's why you need multiple sources, because sometimes, and why you want first-hand sources as well.
Yeah.
Because even you're like, oh well, CNN wouldn't lie to me, but maybe they got duped as well.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's CNN. But anyway, I don't know what they're called. Stat graphs, basically. It's like a 6-axis graph or more, and you have like a pentagram in it that shows like this thing has this much strength and this much speed. And so they'll have like a circle if they have very even stats. And human development, our computer technology is ridiculous.
Oh.
Our communications, spacefaring technology is amazing. Our AI stuff is amazing. But we have these massive gaps, like historical knowledge, medical knowledge, robots, a bunch of other stuff, I'm sure. Robots is kind of... Power generation, batteries.
Let's heat up some water and spin a turbine, and that's all we've done for the past 200, 300 years.
Spaceships as well, to a degree. They're using very, very basic technology. Robotics was one as well. And suddenly, it's like the bend kinked out. It's like, and now it's not. So I think what we will be seeing in the next 2 to 4 years...
It's going the science route in Civ to get more science, and then you can suddenly explode.
Yeah, you can suddenly have your economy go. You can have your... Actually, what I do in Civ is I go economy, because if you go economy, everything else follows, basically. But because you can buy stuff. You can say, I'll just forget waiting 6 turns for this troop. I'll just buy them. Boom.
Yeah.
Or this building. Bam. I'll buy a science center. Bam, bam. But what we're going to see is we're going to see these pings as...
Well, medical technology is always pinging because of that.
Yeah, protein folding was something that happened a little while ago, that it used to take 15 years to do one, and now it takes 2 minutes to do one.
Yeah.
And
there's
the COVID vaccine may be a failure, but the idea behind it was they asked a robot, make a cure for this, and it made it almost instantly. That the whole 12-month period that was all testing.
Yeah.
That was testing where they weren't being honest with the results. But if they had been honest with the results and said, we've got this thing that's decently effective, kind of risky, we've had a bunch of side effects, but we made it in a month with an AI. That could have been such an achievement. Like, okay, we couldn't succeed in making the vaccine the way we wanted, but we made a SARS vaccine in a month. SARS is something that every vaccine before has 100% death rate.
Yeah.
Like every SARS vaccine before the COVID one killed whatever they gave it to.
Yeah.
And then we had an AI build one in a month. That's a miracle. That should be like a celebration. Humans are amazing. But instead we have this weird money game between politicians and big business and people that were duped, and people, and who knows what's real, and
Yeah.
it's all this mess. Like, maybe it was great, maybe it wasn't, maybe vitamin D was the answer all along, maybe it wasn't. So in there are some very, so I think things like cures for cancer, very close coming. Not because of AI, but because people will be able to determine cures for cancer using AI, and
Yeah.
pharmaceutical companies will be forced to release them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's cynical of me, but there was a very promising drug last year for cancer. It was antiparasitical, much like ivermectin, but it was a different one, and it was showing promising results for treating cancer. And the UN uses this drug like crazy. It's one of their it's in their list of like 30 most important drugs on Earth. And the pharmaceutical companies were like, no, we're gonna pull that out. We're going to pull that back into private testing. So now what people are doing, there's a variant of it that's given to pets.
Yeah.
And so people are now taking this as a cancer treatment.
You know, Terry Pratchett's brilliant, because in the Discworld books, whenever someone was extremely injured, they would go get a horse doctor, not a real doctor.
Yeah, they'd get someone,
and the horse doctor would like perform a surgery or give like proper medical
one of the
assessment. And just what we're saying of like ivermectin, the horse medicine, is used for everything.
Yeah.
And this, like, now people are going and getting a dog version of this chemical.
It's not ivermectin, but yeah.
Yeah, but like they're using a dog version of this medicine that's redrawn.
Well, if you look at
do we have to start using like pet medicine because?
So horse shampoo. Yeah. I don't know if you've tried it.
No.
Maybe look into it.
Okay.
Like seriously, because we don't want to irritate horses, right?
Yeah.
And it's very expensive. But horse shampoo repels insects, and it doesn't contain harmful chemicals because it's made from marigolds. And marigolds are a natural insect repellent that aren't a pesticide.
Yeah.
So you can get horse shampoo, and you can put it on your dog to keep them safe from mosquitoes. Or I have a friend who used horse shampoo for her hair, and she had glorious hair. It's I think we have some here actually. It's the only downside to horse shampoo is it's like 50% to twice as expensive as normal shampoo.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, we'll give people the cheap swill, and we'll give the horses the thing.
Yeah, well, my shampoo solution right now is already pretty expensive. I have a block of cold processed soap, and when I take a shower, I just rub my head with it, and I rub it into my hair, and I miss spots with it. But
isn't that like harsher in some ways? Like, isn't I don't know what
this is like a baby formula cold processed soap.
Oh, is it like meant to be a shampoo?
It's not meant to be a shampoo, but you can put it on babies.
Okay.
And it can be used as such.
So I think that there is this huge divide between elites and the common person. And AI will...
Are we becoming a libertarian podcast?
I think that AI will force the issue, basically. And now there is this risk where AI gets controlled. And it just solidifies an aristocratic class, basically, or like an elite class that you can never approach now. Because before you could work really hard and you could...
We get that cyberpunk dystopia, or the jacking in thing with the multiple bodies, and there's the people who lived in the cloud cities for 1,000 years.
The thing about that is, if you look at the American Civil War, that wasn't a slave revolt.
No.
That was people saying, wait a minute, we don't like how we're treating other people.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing with the British movement of emancipating the slaves in Britain and stopping the slave trade throughout most of the world. The British, it was their 1% who did that.
Yeah. Well, not emancipating the slaves in Britain, but emancipating slaves owned by British people. Because Britain has banned slavery since the year 1000.
Yeah.
66, I think it was. So, there's not been slaves in Britain for a very long time. But
then also, making the anti-slavery...
But the empire.
Yeah. The ships that went out and attacked slave ships. And that was Pitt the Younger and his friends, and it's a bunch of wealthy Christians that basically said, oh, this is morally wrong under our Bible. Okay, let's stop it.
So I don't think the cyberpunk future is a reality. But what I do think, what we have right now... So what do we have right now? We have... I don't remember who said this, but they said, we've already fought AI before and we lost. And that was against Facebook's AI. The social media AIs.
Yeah.
And like Twitter's AI, all those sort of things. These are insanely powerful AIs, and maybe now GPT-4 surpasses them, but these things are incredibly powerful, incredibly complex. They were done with machine learning too. YouTube's algorithm, all that sort of thing. They're just not
the extent
sentient feeling because they have one task, and their task is to grab people's attention.
Yeah, they are, our Factorial.
Yeah.
So me and you play Factorial together.
Yeah.
And we build up our factory over time. That is Facebook or YouTube's AI. An expert Factorial player joins our world like after we've been playing for 20, 30 hours.
Yeah.
They have to start at the beginning.
But with their little language learning model, and they have like all the tier 4 stuff, and it's just like pumping
Yeah, they just know what they're doing, and they just like they deconstruct things that no longer work and just build.
So basically, there was, let's say, 20 AIs on Earth, and they were owned by the Chinese government, Facebook, Google, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But now, I've got 3 on my computer.
Yeah.
And they're tiny. So I think this is what it's trickle down. I think this is what the AI is going to do. It's going to make that trickle a flood. But the cyberpunk dystopia will be not any evil, like corporations or elites trying to suppress people. It'll be the same thing that everyone does, where, like, for example, Chance of Sinar. The game looks amazing. I played the demo. I loved it. It's a game where you can't. You live on the Tower of Babel and you can't speak anyone's language, and you have to figure out what language. So basically, people speak random symbols to you.
Yeah.
And then you choose what those symbols mean, and then they'll speak whatever the outcome is. And if it's like nonsense, you're like, okay, I don't understand it. It's very cool. Mm-hmm. It's basically cryptography, very simple cryptography. But I was having a great time. But I read their end user license agreement, and it says you can't, you don't own this game.
Yeah.
If you make mods of this game, we own the mods and everything in the mods, all the intellectual property put into the mods, which you can't actually do. Like Blizzard tried that and they got in a lot of trouble. They said we can look at all your data while you're playing this game, and we can access all of it. And they said we can revoke this game from you at any point without reason. And they also said there's some clause in there, like if you sue us, you agree that you will lose, something like that. Like it's evil, this end user license agreement, right? And so what I did was I went onto the forums and I said, in the spirit of the game, translating the end user license agreement, and I wrote it out. Yeah. And people were saying, well, have you never read an end user license agreement before? Oh, it's, this is just what games have. That is the future we're going to, and that is the future I believe we will have, where the Chance of Sinar people, they're not trying to be evil. Yeah. They don't want people stealing their stuff. They worked hard on it.
Yeah.
And if someone makes a mod, that was your hard work they're piggybacking off of. You deserve a cut of that. And you're not going to abuse it. You're just covering your back, your behind, right?
Yeah.
You're not actually going to steal people's stuff. I just want to cover all, right?
It's nudge theory.
It's the tragedy of the commons. Like Sitch and Adam.
But why people are accepting it like you've never seen it before, that's nudge theory.
Which is?
So you basically make something more and more acceptable over time. It's the slow march to hell. It's like,
right. Yeah, because
just a little bit. It's like, it's not moving goalposts, but it's like, we're just going to move a little bit to the left, and then we're going to move a little bit to the left. And it's also making people's the end goal, like the nudge theory, is we want a result. However, people won't want that result. So we're going to make them start wanting that result one little step at a time until we get that result.
In marketing, it's called an anchor.
Yeah.
Or an anchor price, where you say, this thing's $200, but we're going to give it to you for $150. And you're like, I wouldn't spend $100 on that, but it's 50 off, so oh boy, I'm going to buy the $100 50 thing. Yeah, so...
Yeah, nudge theory is a much broader whole idea of that.
So, Sitch and Adam, they're releasing this comic. They've been working on it for years. And they're not going to release a digital version of you can only get a physical version of it. And the reason that Adam doesn't want to release a physical version is because he spent 3 years drawing this thing, and he doesn't want people to be able to pirate it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the only reason... No, it sucks, but the only reason this is getting bought and sold is because your fans want to support you and care about you.
Also, has he not heard of scanlations?
Well,
it won't even need to be a scanlation, it just need to be a scan.
Yeah. But the only reason people are buying this is because they care about you and support you. I'm sure it'll be good, right? Talented people behind it. But no one's going to steal it that wouldn't have given you money in the first place.
Yeah.
So you're inconveniencing everyone that needs a digital reader or wants a digital reader because you're afraid your non-audience will steal it. What might happen at the worst, now this, I don't know if this is always true of comics, but in the case of, this is a fan-made comic for a fan, like, well, it's made by the two guys, but what you're going to have is, at worst, you'll have people that dislike you reviewing your comic like Mahler does to, he's done to comics and videos before, right?
Yeah.
The craziest thing, the massive hypocrisy, right? They're a review channel in essence. They go into massive in-depth reviews. They spend 12 hours talking about it, like a 12-minute video. But they're watching someone's entire video and they're reacting to it. And you're afraid of people doing something similar. And you're afraid, okay, let's say someone comes along, they steal your comic, this is great, I'm going to buy it. I feel like these guys don't earn my money. That's an argument that's made a lot with piracy. I don't know if it's always true, but in this case, I think it completely is. Mm. But what I'm getting at here is the people making the world worse never think they are.
Yeah.
They think that they're just defending their own thing. They're just getting their bag. They're just looking out for themselves. They're just...
I heard someone talking about end user agreements, like the online ones. He predicted that very soon there's going to be a big legal battle over them, and they're going to get destroyed because of this legal battle.
That would make me much more optimistic for the future.
Yeah.
I can't... It's hard to imagine it happening. Yeah. Like, the closest we have, I guess, right now is with Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
Where they lost. The crazy thing is that...
Well, basically what the guy said is the moment that a company, because they're getting closer and closer because they're very arrogant, but the moment that a company tries to do a mass enforcement of an end-user agreement, and it actually comes to a legal case, he said that's when they're going to get destroyed, because governments and people who are in the jury are just going to go, this is really stupid, we need to do something about it.
The fact that PayPal got away with it makes me believe they can get away with anything. Like, we will arbitrarily charge you $2,000 if we don't like what you've said anywhere. Like, that they got away with? I don't think... What's the tipping point if that... Because it's like the frog boiling, I guess. It just keeps... But the thing I find insane, and I don't understand in the slightest, the Chance of Sinner people replied to me and they said, oh, we should rewrite our legalese because we don't want people to think we're harvesting their data. We don't actually look at any data. So we're going to rewrite it. And it's like, okay... That's nice. You haven't actually addressed my bigger points, like you don't own this and you can't mod it. But hey, at least there's that, right?
Yeah.
But the other comments are people who are, rotted with a fungus infection?
Well, did you put this on Reddit?
No, this is on Steam.
Oh, okay.
But it's like it's a fungus infection in their brain.
Yeah.
Where they have to defend the corporation that is robbing them, and they think that any criticism or pushback is what, an attack on their life?
Basically, yeah.
Like, why would I...
So...
Why would I... This is the thing where people criticize Trump all the time, right? Why would I criticize Trump? I'm never going to vote for him. Yeah. It's like, why would I criticize Chance of Sinner unless I thought it was a cool game? Like, what do you... Yeah. Does me saying they have a bad end-user license agreement mean that your enjoyment of the game itself is any less? Like, what are you defending?
Yeah, I kind of agree with the mind fungus thing. It's something that Arch pointed out. And he has some definitely wrong takes or weird takes. But this one was very interesting. He said, psychologically...
Half the time I wonder if he's a neo-Nazi. Like, some of the stuff he says.
He said that text, people are hardwired to read text as negatively as possible. And...
Yeah.
And I completely agree with him on that. Yeah. He said, he basically said, I hate communicating to people through text. Like, if someone wants to communicate with me, we're going to go online and talk with, like, video cameras so we can see each other at least. And it's like, communicating text is always going to be the worst interpretation. That's why, he's basically saying that's why Dev is constantly getting in trouble. Is because Dev types something to someone, and then they interpret it as the worst way possible.
You know what happens to me on YouTube all the time? I'll comment something, and someone will be like, how can you think eating babies is good? You shouldn't eat babies. And I'll be like, I agree. And they're like, what? No, you don't agree with me. It's like, yes, I do agree with you. That is what my comment said. I said, see, so all right, we shouldn't eat babies. And then they'll be like, what kind of creepy baby eater are you? Why would you eat babies? Yeah. I don't want to eat babies. They're like, no, you want to eat babies. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think there's some misreading, but it's defending corporations.
Yeah.
What? Now, I do know, and this is what will make people go crazy, because I do know that there is actually people whose job it is to defend corporations.
Yeah.
Like wasn't it revealed recently that Disney hired thousands of people to attack anyone that criticized their latest Marvel productions?
Yeah.
And the Hillary campaign, this was a big scandal for her. I don't know if it lost her the election, it might have, but they were hiring college students to be the first person on every news article to say, yeah, I think Hillary's probably the choice for me. So that, that first impression bias, because the first comment is the most likely to get the most upvotes, right? Or the most likes or whatever it might be. And so they hired a bunch of these people to spin the message that, it looks like she's winning. And I don't know how that works. Like they got in trouble for it, but it's always a scandal. It's never the end of someone's career.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works. Like it must be that it's always, it wasn't me, it was my lawyer did it.
Yeah.
Like that's what happened with Trump, right? He's like, I didn't tell him to do that. My lawyer did it. And so
it was an intern who did it. We have a scapegoat.
Yeah, he thought he, and I guess it's hard because, sometimes you do have a well-meaning intern that's just like, I'm going to win this for my guy and I'm going to hire, and it's like, no, you're making me look bad. But a lot of times it does just seem like a fall guy, right?
Yes.
But it's like, you go to prison for 5 years, I give you 100,000.
Yeah.
Or, 5 years, that's not enough for 5 years of prison, but
Yeah. So the future of the AI is end user agreement hell?
Yeah, so, it's that mindset. It's people defending corporations. Like, you already see it where people are defending OpenAI for being closed sourced. And now OpenAI's members have said when they went closed source, they said it was because we're worried about the safety of humans. Members, like high up members of OpenAI, have since said, no, we just wanted to have a market control.
Yeah.
And you still have people defending them like, no, you got to do this because you don't want neo-Nazi rhetoric and you don't want the existence of the phrase misinformation, and it's this great threat. It's like the greatest psyop that ever happened, and no one cares. It's like, how did misinformation become a concern for anyone? For all of human history, us rationalist science worshippers have looked back and laughed at how wrong we were, right? And now that there are some people that are right, in quotation marks, in the wrong degree, like they're right about, like, if something's to the north and the correct opinion is to say it's northwest and the incorrect position is to say it's northeast, but it's north, suddenly that is the end of the world with misinformation.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter if this person is doing this bad thing or this bad thing. They're a bad person, and I'm not like, you can destroy someone's reputation. It happened to Jordan Peterson like that, right? But it's not that's slander. It's not the greatest threat to humanity. You shouldn't have to restrict all discourse and language. It's basically like the ghost of Edward Bernays was torn up from hell by a cabal of necromancers, and they said to him, we need you to find a way to 100% censor speech in a way that can't be criticized as infringing upon free speech. And he's like, misinformation. And then he went back down to hell. And it works. And then there's that absurd phrase, it's freedom of speech, not freedom of consequences. From consequences. Like, we already had that.
Yes.
China has that.
Yeah. No, see, the consequence isn't your speech get takes away. The consequence is people think you're a moron.
Yeah.
That's what the consequence is. If the consequence is speech being removed, then that is the whole old saying of cutting out a man's tongue doesn't prove that he's wrong.
It just shows that you're afraid of what he has to say.
Yeah.
It's not an old... Well, it's from Game of Thrones, but it's brilliantly done. But
I feel like the spirit of that saying has existed.
Probably.
But it's a good coining.
Well, there. Voltaire said something similar, which was, if you want to know who's in control, ask who you cannot criticize.
Oh, yeah.
Children with leukemia.
Yeah.
Children with leukemia suck. Yeah. But like in China right now,
Yeah.
you have complete freedom of speech, but not freedom from consequences.
Yeah.
In North Korea, it's the same. You haven't... Your country isn't free if you're saying that in the slightest.
Yeah.
But then this misinformation thing, it's like, well, we can restrict whatever we want because we are the arbiters of truth.
And we're protecting you.
There's a reason that it's called the Ministry of Truth in 1984. Yeah. Because the idea that there is... The Ministry of Truth on its own is meant to be horrifying. It's not meant to be, okay, then you learn about the Ministry of Truth and it's not a Ministry of Truth. It doesn't matter if everything they do is truthful. The idea...
The very name should let you know.
No, the very name is a source of horror.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because their committee cannot decide upon truth. A government is not the handler of truth. It doesn't matter what the committee does. You cannot have... That's like something from Keys to the Kingdom, right? Like you have the Artful Loungers and the Ministry of Truth. Yeah. It's like you have a bureaucrats deciding truth.
Well, what's actually really disturbing about that, right, is think about... I mean, I've experienced more than you, but how much people hate bureaucracy and like committee bureaucracy. Like that's awful. And now, in the Keys of the Kingdom, the bureaucracy would determine the truth, and that truth would be reality in the kingdom. But right now in our world, if we had that, like we have that bureaucracy, this is the truth.
So I was called for jury duty at the start of this month.
Yeah.
Again. And so I wrote a letter to them saying, I'm in too much pain to drive, and I can't think straight, and a bunch of other things. I can't speak. Got a call this morning from the sheriff's office, and they said, hey, we need a note from your doctor to prove that you're too hurt to attend. So can you just drop by the office and give us a note from your doctor? Well, I'll just drive right over. And I said, no, I can't. I'm in too much pain, and I can't show up. And they're like, well, I can only do what's on this list, so I can't do anything for you. So what are you going to do about it? It's like, what kind of Kafka's hell am I in? I was really upset this morning. Like, I was super upset. I try not to get into this mindset, but sometimes I think it's like demons tormenting me, like just trying to see how much they can do to me. Like, because I haven't been talking for 2 months, basically, because I had to do a bunch of talking because of a funeral.
That should not be doing that.
Because I had to do a bunch of talking because of a funeral, and then I got sick. And so I haven't been able to talk for 2 months, and on the one day I've been saving up my strength for 2 months, basically, to talk, I'm suddenly called at 8:30 in the morning, and I have to talk, and my voice gets sore before you're even here. And I have to talk through this impossible situation. And it's like, and I'm also starting house sitting now, and it's like things start looking up and I get punched down again. And it was just horrible. And that's the people you want in charge of truth.
Yeah.
And in Canada, we actually have the Ministry of Truth and Reconciliation.
Yeah.
And you know, they don't decide on what's true. They're not the propaganda office. That's the
CBC.
No, CBC spews propaganda, but the people actually in charge is the CRTC, the Canadian Radio Transmissions.
Yeah.
The people that actually say Canadian content and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They're in charge of propaganda and what is truth and what is real and what is Canadian. But the Truth and Reconciliation, they're actually just trying to figure out where all the dead people go. But the name, well, and the fact that they've never succeeded, I think everyone's theory basically is that they know, and they don't like the answer every time they find it. And so then they say, sorry, we can't find anything. And then the activists that aren't aware, that are just, well, why can't the government figure it out? Come on, you got to tell us. And so they push really hard. And so they're like, okay, we'll open up another case. Yeah. And then they solve it, and they're like, we don't like this answer, so we're not going to tell anyone. And now I'm on the activist side. I want the activists to actually get the answer.
Yeah.
They wouldn't like the answer, but I don't think you should coddle them. Because the answer is that, like, it's where all the First Nations going, basically. Where all the First Nation women going. And the answer is almost certainly they're being killed by First Nations men.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is every time they're like, why is Canada so racist? Let's do a commission. We'll figure out where they're all going. And the commission goes out. They get their best detectives, and the detectives actually solve it. And they're like, it's the First Nation men, and we don't want to say that. I think that's what happens.
Well, yeah, let's not even add to that. I was going to say
there is also racist monsters in Canada, obviously, but I don't think there's actually such a degree of...
Yeah, I've looked at the statistics that we have that have been released, and it's...
Yeah. So
I am really quiet. Hope sitting over here.
So AI. We have more and more censored AIs is a tipping point. Do the open source ones win or not? And what is acceptable, right? Because okay, this is the future. It becomes very easy to do biologically engineered drugs. Now the thing is, once it becomes easy for your average terrorist, your average moron terrorist, to release the bubonic plague or something in a city, especially engineered thing, the AIs are also going to be able to counteract these things very quickly. But it's going to be like the Paris attacks, like every other month. It's going to be like 200 people die in the city before they're able to contain the bacterial explosion or something. I think there's not really a way around that. Although that said, bombs and mustard gas, chlorine gas are very easy to make now, and that isn't an issue. So maybe that's too pessimistic. Because maybe people aren't all monsters.
Well, that's the thing. Like we had those sarin gas attacks in Tokyo, and that was by that cult, and those were quite bad. But there really hasn't been an attack like that since then.
And the other thing is, for all I dislike them, organizations like CSIS and the FBI and the CIA, they're actually very good at detecting bomb threats ahead of time.
Yeah.
They also might cause a couple of...
But, well, it's this, like you're talking about the reconciliation group. And it's this thing with a lot of these voluntary organizations of, our organization exists to make X better. Once X is better, our organization no longer exists.
Yeah.
So, we will improve X by 50%.
And then we'll keep just enough to keep our jobs going.
It's the arrow never hitting the turtle.
It's the what's that? The cobra bounty problem in India, where that is actually a weird question. I'm sure there's a very racist answer to it, and it's not necessarily. I don't think it's the right answer, but the cobra bounty in India, if you don't know about it, the British came to India, they conquered it. They're like, there's way too many cobras. We're going to give you $1 per foot of cobra you bring in. And so a bunch of Indians are like, So they started breeding giant cobras.
Yeah.
And then the government's like, okay, this program is a failure. We have more cobras now. We're not going to pay you anymore. So all the cobra breeders are like, well, it'll be a lot of work to kill all these cobras, so I'll just release them into the wild.
Yeah.
And suddenly their cobra population doubled. But where the racist question comes in, the UK had a wolf bounty, and they killed all the wolves.
Yeah.
Maybe it's harder to breed wolves?
I think that the Indians didn't care as much about the cobras as the British government that came in. Because when the British came into India, they did a lot of stuff.
So they were like...
They were putting their morals onto India, and they saw the cobras the same thing as the wolves.
Right, so India didn't see a problem with the cobras.
Yeah.
Whereas in the UK, everyone's like, we want these wolves gone.
Yeah.
So there probably was a jerk or two that was breeding wolves, but it wasn't enough to make up for the fact that there was...
If in the UK, if there's a guy breeding wolves, if a shepherd found him, he'd be dead.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was probably the occupation combined with pushing your own morals on someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Indians are inferior? I don't understand.
Well, the expansion of the British Empire was them forcing their morals onto everyone else. And that's the same with the expansion of the American Empire, and both failed.
I've been seeing way too many comments like that. I know, I'm pretty sure most comments are like 12-year-olds that just got a hold of a keyboard. But there's so many comments, like Mr. Beast, he did that thing in Africa where he drilled a bunch of wells. And people are saying, why didn't the Kenyan government already do this? And I saw so many replies, well, because they're Africans and they're too stupid to drill wells. Even if you had like zero respect for Africans and Kenyans and whatnot, right? Like a chimpanzee could be smart enough to drill a well if he had the tools and the money.
Yeah.
There's obviously, it's corruption. It's obviously corruption. It's not because Africans are stupid.
Yeah.
Like, and the other thing people do is they say, well, look, I don't make the rules. Just look at IQ tests, right? Asians are the highest, then Jews, and then you have the white people, and then the black people are the lowest on average. And so, yeah, averages. And you, my friend, are not above the lowest of the averages.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't figure that out. Now, there are averages where there's like no overlap. Like hand strength between men and women. So men and women leg strength, right? Like on average, men are way stronger. But there are women that are stronger than men with their legs.
Yeah.
Hand strength, the weakest men are almost always stronger than the strongest women. Like grip strength and punching. Like men, the average man punches 3 times as hard as the average woman. Like it's not even close.
Yeah, well, it's in... I saw a video of... So it's between 2 female MMA fighters. And one of them was talking, I was like, oh yeah, this fight really sucked. Like, I was hoping to do better. Her face is mangled. And the video is like, she's just getting pummeled in the face. male MMA fighters actually can't do that. And the difference is women cannot punch strong enough to break the orbital bone. Or, like, they can bruise it, they can maybe fracture it, but they cannot hit hard enough to break the orbital bone in a skull. Men can. And so the difference between male boxing and MMA and female is the skull gets broken. That's the difference between the two. Mm-hmm. And so even if, like, a woman's face looks mangled after MMA where she'd fight another woman...
The man would be dead.
Yeah, it's actually safer for them to have... That match is safer for them because it's a lot harder for them to kill each other.
I wonder if male boxing should all be bare knuckle.
Just so you don't have the protection on your fist?
Yeah, so that you... Because I think it would be... Like, it looks way worse because you'll always get bloody fists, but, like, you're not going to be killing people with concussions.
Yeah.
Or if you are,
well,
it'll hurt.
The problem, bare knuckle boxing is weird. It's a mixed thing. Bare knuckle boxing has a lot more organ injury.
Oh, like eyes and stuff?
Not eyes, body organs.
Oh, really?
Because bare knuckle boxers, it feels a lot nicer on your fist to punch someone in the ribs and stomach than the face. Mm. And so bare knuckle boxers usually have internal organ damage instead of skull damage. And so all their organs are messed up instead of their brain game and spine game messed up.
Maybe you have 2 rounds and you swap back. One hand is gloved, one isn't. Every round you swap gloves. Yeah.
Also, because of that, the matches are way longer because to knock someone out with a technical knockout is really hard to do, and it's a lot boringer to watch a technical knockout because you scrape someone's kidney with your knuckle and then they just like sort of fall over and stop moving.
Okay, so to move the AI thing along, there's going to be restrictions placed on AI. They might affect the common person. You might have to hide your AI. It'll be like pirating or worse. Maybe it'll actually be really strongly cracked down on. We will see industries... We will suddenly see new battery technology. We'll see new vehicle technology. We'll see autonomous vehicles. We're going to see robots that can replace huge amount of jobs. I don't believe human work will actually be replaced. I think we will always discover new jobs for people. But there will also be risks for abuse of power from humans and AI. Massive ones. Like nukes, bioweapons, chemical weapons. And so my question is, I think we're going to hit a wall soon. I think it's going to be related to power. I don't think we're going to have enough power for these things. Yeah. I don't think that the hardware is going to... Because right now there's a GPU shortage, and it's been going on for years, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. Do you want it to hit that wall? Do you want us to stop and be like, okay, let's try to figure this stuff out. Let's try to... Before this thing is sentient and does whatever it does with its sentience, you want to have a breather? Or do you want it to just full steam ahead, let's see what happens? I think the answer is partly tied to how satisfied you are with your life.
Yes.
Because if it can bring down housing prices, I mean...
If it can bring down housing prices, then go right ahead. I got super depressed this weekend because of that.
I think no matter what happens in the next 2 to 4 years with AI, housing prices will go down because of it.
Yeah.
But that might not be a good thing.
Did I ever tell you about my anti-human conversation I had with a friend during the start of COVID?
No.
I was talking with a friend, and you know that evil voice in the back of your head. And it was, maybe this pandemic will be really bad, and a bunch of people will die. And because I live in an isolated part of the world, I have a higher chance of surviving. And because of that, we can have a desperation of people and be like the Black Death again, of people getting houses and like jobs and stuff. And my thought was like, maybe this will be a chance for people to afford a house.
Yeah. Well, that's, everyone that says the world would be better with less people in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
You start.
You first. Yeah. But I think it is a thought a lot like everyone's had, where it's like, if I had twice as much stuff, my life would be twice as better.
Yeah, the AI. I would like the larger AIs to hit a wall.
But the open source...
Small ones to catch up to them.
Until everyone has GPT-4, but not more. Or maybe GPT-5.
Everything... It's more... I want there to be so many... What I want is that, there is a massive backlog. Basically it hits a technological wall. Like we did with quantum computers. So we hit this technological wall. And so tons and tons of AIs get built to that point. And so the wall is basically the point where the AIs can stop other AI. That's why I want the wall to be. And so we get thousands of different models, or hundreds, whatever, like thousands of minor ones, like 100 major ones. And then the wall can be broken because they're all going to be at that level, and then they can fight each other.
Okay, how about this?
Or during that time of the wall, we have time to also think about, like, I want the wall to exist for like a year or two.
Okay, imagine a GPT-5, right?
Yeah.
So GPT-4 Turbo is the best AI on Earth right now, as far as we're aware. And you haven't even seen GPT-4, let alone GPT-4 Turbo.
Yeah.
So GPT-4 is way better than 3.5.
Yeah.
And GPT-4 Turbo is 32 times better than GPT-4, sort of. So let's take
All right, well, I want GPT-5 with a UI.
as in
It's really easy to interact with.
GPT-4 Turbo is.
Okay.
You don't have to choose which model you use anymore. You just say, do this, and it figures out what it
Which
needs.
model is the best to do it with?
Yeah. And you can give it multiple things. You can be like, look at this picture, figure out the math in it, and solve it. And it'll be like, okay, I'm going to use this image interpreter, and then I'm going to use code interpreter, and then I'm going to...
Yeah, I want to do that also, like, when I was for a short while of trying to use the auto GP, and I was like, oh, I need this software, and I told, oh, go get that software, and that got itself caught in a logic loop. Like, I want them to be better without the logic loop. I want them to be a little bit more clever than, I'm going to set you these 5 tasks, and then it's like, oh, I need this thing here, I don't have the admin to do that.
Okay, how about this? So we want there to be an upper limit, but we want the lower limit to catch up to the point where...
Yes.
So we want the energy cost to go down, but the intelligence to stay the same, basically.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, bring the intelligence up a little bit past what it is now, but then the energy costs go way down.
Yeah.
And everyone has one. Okay.
However, the other thing is, it's not that I want to see the world burn, but I do want to see a hypersentient AI that could potentially be Ultron, but maybe it'll be Vision.
Well, it would be like walking on the moon, or the first person to come to the Americas, or like you'd be living in a time where something happened.
Yeah.
And that's always devastating. Like, there's a reason that may you live in interesting times.
Yes, is a curse.
But, you know, the when you go to Egyptian afterlife, it's 42 judges, and they say to you, like, they ask you each a question, and basically the questions are, what have you done with your life to make you think you're worth anything? What is made you worthy of passing on and not being destroyed by the soul devourer and recycled into a new soul?
Yeah.
And you say, I saw the AI
destroy the world.
It's like, safe isn't always the good life.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, creating a stable world for your children and yourself is also very admirable, even if nothing exciting happens.
Yeah.
But I think, you know what I think? I think AI will be. This is what I hope AI will be. I don't want it, I think, to take over all aspects of humanity. I guess that's what I'm asking. Do you want AI to take over all aspects of humanity? Like, it is now your food provider and your therapist and your... Like, that seems really nice in a lot of ways, but it's also like, you're basically saying, do you choose to worship this god?
I mean, I think creating a god's pretty cool.
It's cool, but it's also like I'm torn. I want to see it, and I want this god to fix all problems and cure all disease.
Here's part of the thing why I want there to be hundreds of them, and then can move forward. Is there's always this thought of, so the future dystopia, why people say it's so guaranteed, is there's the selfish people, they're at the top, and they do what you don't want them to do. Now, give them like 10 times the power. However, now, this is not an endorsement of Elon. This isn't saying he's an infallible person. However, there are paradigm-shifting people who come along who are in the upper echelon. And it's like it's tyrants. Like, sometimes you get veterinary.
Yeah.
And so...
Sometimes you get Louis the 14th.
Yeah. Sometimes there's people who shift the paradigm. And...
Actually, Louis the 14th is a great example, because there's a lot you could criticize, and there's a lot you could be like, he was a great ruler.
Yeah, and so... Whenever someone says, like, oh, this company, they'll just have all the power, like...
Or Napoleon, even. Yeah.
They'll have all the power, and it'll be this horrible person. I'm reading a Japanese comic right now called Kingdom, and it's about the, 500 years or something of war that occurred in China. This was...
The Romance of Three Kingdoms?
No, this is after it. So this is the 6 warring states of China. So Han, Chu, Qi, Zhao. So there's a bunch of different seats. And the stories follows the...
Was that when, like, there was that siege where they ate, like, everyone?
Maybe. That hasn't happened in the comic. But they've done some brutal things.
Have you seen that 4chan meme where it's, like, European history? There was 1,000 people lost on the British side and 12,000 on the French. It was a disaster for both countries. Then you see the Chinese. 3 million peasants died and 2 million more were sent to starvation. Total victory.
One of the things that happened in the comic was... The comic is a bit Romance Three Kingdoms of, like, the generals are juggernauts in combat. They're not invincible, but they're juggernauts.
The Romance of Three Kingdoms, like, that was the Warring Kingdoms period. It was a real time.
Yeah, I know. The Romance of Three Kingdoms is 70% true, 30% fiction is what someone is the best estimate. But so if a general dies, like, the generals ride out into combat. If the general dies, basically the army will surrender most of the time.
Yeah.
So there was a massive battle between Qin and Zhao. Qin is the heroes of the story. They're kind of evil. And the leader of Qin's army is a bandit.
Was this in the 1400s?
It's 200 or 300 BC, I think.
Oh, okay. Jeez.
Yeah. And so...
How many massive wars have they had?
A lot. Anyways, the armies clash, and the general of the enemy side is killed. And basically, his might and will alone was holding the Zhao army together. And so, 100,000 soldiers surrender. So the bandits find a bunch of their comrades have been beheaded, and their heads are put onto these tables. And it's because the bandits were doing some horrible things, so they got their vengeance. Then the leader of, like, one of the sub-generals, they come up to a box, and they open up the box, and he's dismembered and stuck inside the box. And so all the bandits freak out, and then the bandit leader says, execute all the prisoners. And so this is 100,000 soldiers are beheaded. Their heads are put into pile and ignited, so there's just these fields of skulls. And the king's like, we do not kill prisoners of war. And so he takes his own personal army and shows up to the bandits' general's army and says, tell me why you did this. If you don't have a good enough reason, I'll execute you here. And then he gave a reason. Well, there's 100,000 of them, and our army is about 70,000 strong. Like, if they decide to turn on us, we'd get annihilated.
You know...
But, like, the numbers in this story are so absurd, but what I was getting at with the story is, so the king of Zhao is this absolutely awful person in the comic. Like, he is terrible, and he basically brings the downfall of his own kingdom because he doesn't release the Imperial Army because he wants them to guard the capital. If the Imperial Army had been on the battlefield, it would defeat the armies of Qin. He gets killed by his servants. He gets murdered by them. They poison him because he's a horrible person. So his elder son, everyone loves his elder son. And he's going to take over. He's going to save Zhao. Then his last little intestinal comes out and says, the rulership is going to my younger son. And he's even more degenerate than his father. And so it's just horrible. And then, but his younger son is at least more clever than his father. He's like, I'm an awful person. I want to experience every pleasure in life. My kingdom's falling apart. So he goes to this general that his father was going to execute. He's like, your job is to make sure I have as much time as possible to basically have excess. But there's still the whole thing of, if his younger son takes over, if they have a coup that works, the kingdom would be much better off. And there's always those people that come around. Like Qin, the whole story starts with there's a coup, and the king's younger half-brother takes over the kingdom. And they manage to fight back, and he takes control.
So you don't fear AI taking over, you fear it taking over forever. And so you always want there to be something that can fight back.
Yeah, even if it's another AI.
And that's why you want there to be a period where it's like,
yeah,
some other people catch up, just so that even if it's China and Russia have the two best AIs, at least they're fighting.
Yeah.
And there's room for things to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't actually think... I think...
And it's not even on AI, like even like top corporations, just so they have enough power so like we don't all become the empire of Google.
Yeah. Well, that is the... And it's not going to be like their robots in Death Camp. It'll be like the end user license agreement stuff, like I said. Like, you won't be able to have a job unless you have a Google Chromebook, and Google Chromebook won't let you write messages they disagree with. Like, you know how OpenAI is censoring, like, you can't ask it these questions, right?
Yeah.
Imagine a world where Microsoft was looking at what you type into Microsoft Word and saying, we disagree with that, so you can't write that.
Yeah.
I think I don't think it was Microsoft. There was something like that already happened. Audacity does that now.
Yeah.
On the new versions, where they listen into you and they can give that information to the government.
Yeah.
So imagine like a world where Bic pens record what you write or draw and report you if you do it. Like a world with zero privacy. That is the dystopia. Zero privacy and absolute control over what you do.
I came up with the perfect counter to if you have you shouldn't worry if you have nothing to hide.
Yeah, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the counter to that is, what business do they have looking at it? Like, I have a normal life. I have nothing to hide. Why do they want to look at it? What's wrong with them? Are they some sort of pervert?
It's like a bit of pervs.
Yeah.
If you're not perverted, you wouldn't be looking.
Yeah.
If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. If you have nothing, if you're not perverted, why are you looking?
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I think the dystopia will be a world without privacy, and where the performative morality of business executives dictates everything you can say. Like it already does to a degree because of social media. Social media is a taste of what it could be.
So I didn't realize this about social media. I found this out recently. Our world is split in half, probably more than half, but there's a very big split in half, actually.
Like Billy V. Contal, those sort of things? Or
no, it's... I don't know what you mean by that, but...
Oh, like how the interaction graph?
Yeah, the interaction, but it's far more than I thought it was. I don't know if you know about October the 7th.
Yeah, the Israel... And, yeah.
People don't know that happened. They don't know it happened because of the information they got. They only know the one side, and that's that Israel's invading. They don't know that Hamas attacked.
Oh, so it's not... Okay, because I was going to say, if you don't know a world event happened, sure, that happens. But you're saying they think Israel started the war?
Yes, they just think Israel's attacking for no reason. They literally do not get the information. Like, and that's probably it's probably true for both sides. Like, the information, like the reality is actually split into pieces because of the information people are getting.
That's weird. Because I think even Hamas wouldn't deny it. They'd be
no,
like...
they want you to know, but...
They're proud of it.
Yeah.
I saw the videos of the opening, like, hour of the invasion, basically. I didn't see anyone dying or anything. I don't want to see that sort of stuff. But what I just saw, like, them firing several thousand rockets, cutting through the gate, driving their vehicles. Yeah, it's horrible, right? It's this surprise attack on Israel out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
It was so cool. Like, modern military logistics look amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to reconcile it. Like, I think the event is horrible.
Yeah.
But it's just the coordination of, you have people just show up, boom, they cut through the fence, boom, suddenly tanks are driving through the fence. It's like clockwork.
Yes.
It's actually...
It's the same thing of watching riot police put down a riot.
Yeah, it's like, you hate that it's happening, but it's kind of the beauty of human machinery.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like reading the Kingdom comic even, is it's like these absurd armies smashing into each other.
Yeah, that's... I guess Dan Carlin talked about that. He said, like, well, we think gladiator fights are horrible. And if you talk to a Roman, they'd say, you like the same stuff we do. Your stuff is just fake.
Yeah.
Or it's not.
Yeah, but it's like, it's actual a split in reality, though, that the algorithms have created. And I don't...
Is that many people that you saw like that, or?
Well, it happened with a few cases, and I feel, and it's probably more cases, because I saw a few people in talking about, like, I don't know what happened on October 7th. But I feel like there's probably more than we think that reality has fractured.
I hope not. I think it's also easy to overestimate the amount of crazies out there.
I hope you're right on that.
But I say that. There was people saying, the less you know, the easier it is to dismiss those concerns, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was people back in 2014 saying there's way too many Muslims coming into London.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're just crazy racist. It's like, no, the British people are being replaced.
Yeah.
And then you look at the universities. There's crazy feminists taking over. It's like, oh, that's just in the universities. And now it's everywhere.
That warning that Teal Deer gave, that video he made, was like, you do not understand this religion.
But you also, the less you know about something, the more confident you are about it.
Not being a problem.
About your reality being the correct one.
Yeah.
So you could be seeing stuff that is triggering something, like, because you're very good at these intuition things, where it's like, okay, there's a problem here, and I could be saying, I don't know enough about this, and I don't want to believe there's a world where people don't understand that Hamas attacked first, because that's insane.
Well, so
I'm not even saying, like, even
my best friends, I know they have read 1984. I know they've read it. Yet, they love INSOC.
Like what's in SOC again?
That's Big Brother, that's the government. Yeah. Like, they are promoters of INSOC.
Okay, I'll test you. Did you hear there was a protest in Panama? A stop oil protest in Panama. There's people blocking the road, and a guy that was frustrated, he stepped out of his car and he shot two of the protesters dead. Did you hear about that?
Yes.
Okay, do you know the rest of that story?
I do not.
So Canadian Mining Company made a deal with the corrupt president of Panama that they're allowed to seize people's homes and property and take it for themselves and mine on their land. And so these protesters were protesting the government giving away a humongous amount of land to this Canadian mining company for no benefit of their own. To, do as Canadian mining companies do and rape and pillage their country.
Yeah.
So these protesters were an anti-government corruption protest.
Yeah.
Because they want to stop this evil mining company from making a deal with their corrupt leader. And this dude just comes out and shoots them.
Yeah.
Suddenly it's a different story.
Yes.
This isn't... Now, it was a bad story either way, because what's that dude doing shooting protesters? What, are you insane? Like, it doesn't matter what the protest is. You can't just shoot people like that. Well, okay, you can shoot people sometimes, but not that case.
Yeah.
You want protest. It's like, well, protesters... And I've seen so many comments, people saying, well, you shouldn't be blocking the road. You're preventing people's commute. And, what? We're in a world of psychopaths? What's going on here? Like, you being 2 minutes... If your light is structured, that being 2 minutes late, it's better to kill people than to be 2 minutes late.
Sounds like you're going to create some clock kings there.
Yeah, it's what's wrong with you? It doesn't, and it's like, well, protesters should be on the sidewalk. They shouldn't be disruptive of traffic. Protesters need to be in the face of the people protesters need to disrupt the people they need to reach, so that they shouldn't be affecting the ordinary citizen. If they're protesting against the government, they should be messing up the government.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to protest oil, you shouldn't be blocking people driving to work. You should be blocking the oil company workers getting into the factory.
Yeah.
But all the same, protests shouldn't be inoffensive. It should be annoying. It should be obnoxious. It should get in your way because it's meant to make a point.
Yeah.
But there was just this huge like, oh, those stupid stop oil people. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
This is people whose government is betraying.
See, I don't know that path for the story.
Yeah. And that's...
Well, so even on that, like the what is it called?
Did you see...
it's a war of optics right now, for one part. But I don't want to get too much of war of optics, just the point that reality is splintered.
Have you seen Metal Gear Solid 2 cutscene where he's like... I haven't played any of his games, but Hiyojima, is that his name?
Yeah.
He's like a genius writer.
Yeah.
Like, I listened to the cutscene, I was like, this is the best writing I've ever seen. He's so good, it's ridiculous. Might actually make me like story and games if I play it. Like, he's such a good writer.
Well, you've heard the Senator's speech, have you not?
The Senator? Is that...
Senator Armstrong's speech?
Bits of it, yeah. But,
you should listen to the whole thing.
But this speech is saying that there's a divide in people, and it's going to get worse the more technology we have. The more...
Was this the AI talking to Raiden?
Yeah, talking about memes, where he was talking about how the genome records all that is good and all that is bad, but memes record human ingenuity, and so we have religion, we have all these great works, but now it's free to store information, so we're getting junk information built up, and so we will be the person that controls it, and we will save humanity. And it's like such a strong argument for censorship.
Yeah.
Even though the game, you're fighting against them, but it's like so many authors make their villains just, oh, I'm evil and I'm crazy. But this was like, wait, is the villain right?
That's the thing with all of his games where he's actually the writer of them. Like
it's so hard to write that.
Raiden versus the Senator. It's not black and white. They actually want the same thing.
You're like, wait, is the villain right? Yeah.
Well, that's the... You know that whole thing of Senator Armstrong's a villain, you're not supposed to like his points? Yeah. I was like, but...
Do you have a source for that, Senator?
I made it up. But it's just, people actually really do resonate with the Senator on some of his points. And it's because, well, Raiden says, you're insane, but he's not evil, he's insane, and he does make some good points.
How did he, like, predict technology? Like, nobody gets it. But, like, it was 1990 something that the Metal Gear Solid games came out, right? And those things are playing out.
He's Japanese.
They were already there. Yeah.
No, what it is he didn't predict technology, he predicted humanity. And that's the same thing that my new media teacher taught me, is what he knew the nature of humans. And the nature of humans is the technology they will have.
And that's why I say it'll be the end user license agreement, because that's what we've done. It's always been trying to just get a little edge, because you're protecting yourself. Just a little edge.
Yeah, well...
The path to hell.
Canadians are hobbits. Be perfectly straightforward.
Humans have... channel I watched, Dave Shapiro, he's a automation engineer.
Sorry, he's some like unholy combination of Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin.
No, he's an automation engineer who has pivoted his career to being about AI.
Yeah.
And his prediction is that the darkest, all technologies have a high moment and they have a dark moment, and they have this moment where you had the dot-com bubble where tons of people's lives are ruined, but then it rose and now everyone uses the internet, and we have a much better stable understanding of it, right? And he said AI will go through the same thing. We'll have this high moment and the low moment, but the low moment for AI will be the darkest moment of human history. And it's like, I hope you're wrong, because when he said that, and he has all this evidence and stuff, and it's just, you're scary.
Darkest moment of human history is hard to match.
Bronze Age collapse, Younger Dryas.
Yeah,
I think it could be matched with AI.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's scary if he's right. It's hard to match, because the darkest points of humanity have been very bad.
Like, humanity's almost been wiped out. Yeah.
Well, even like, it's not humanity, but just the Black Death. There's a reason why we call it the Black Death. Like, so many diseases, like we have polio or whatever. Like, these diseases were bad. Yeah. But like, there's a reason we call it the Black Death. Is 60% of Europe died. Yeah. And
well, 30, I think.
No, 60.
It was 30. I think it depended on the region, but I think it was 30 overall.
No, it was 60 overall. The region was 80%. It was devastating to England. It is more than you think. It is ungodly amount of people die. And then
30% is ungodly.
Yeah, no, that's why. And then we think about even more so the smallpox hitting North America. They had
95%.
Yeah, they had empires equal in size to Europe.
Well, there's an explorer. He went down the Amazon River. Yeah. He was basically the first guy to do it, and this was like, he was basically one of the first explorers in the New World, and he was one of the first people to ever, or maybe the first he was the first European to ever go down the Amazon River. And he has this diary where he says, I went by massive cities with like thousands or millions of people walking about, and I went through this. And when his journal was published, people were like, he was delirious, and years and years and years, people were like, he made it up. Very recently, we've been scanning the jungle, and we've been finding ruins of cities along his path where he said they were. Yeah. It's like, he actually saw. And the crazy thing is, people went by 50 years later. Yeah. They're like, because they had his book, and they're like, we have no reason to think he's a liar. And they didn't see them. They're like, it's just jungle. Yeah. It was like 50 years, and it was gone.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the accounts.
And it might have been his fault.
Yeah.
Because he went deeper than anyone.
One of the accounts of the trading company up in Canada. Hudson Bay.
Hudson Bay, yeah.
Yeah. So this was one of the old fur traders of the Hudson Bay. He was one of the earliest guys there. And he was talking, it was him talking about the plight of the native. He wrote a letter to the king. And he was saying, this was once a people that was throughout this land, they owned the land. There was hundreds of thousands of them. They were a proud people. They helped us with the trading. We fought with them. And now they are all but gone. God's hand has reached down and struck them from the face of the world, and there are so many left. We must do something to save them.
That's Hudson's Bay. The people
This letter is what created the schools. Oh. He was saying, these people are dead. They are dying.
But wasn't Hudson's Bay purposely killing them?
Yes. This was one of the traders. Oh, I see. It was like a plebe. It was right. He's like, this is a dying people. We must save them. And so the king and the church both went, okay, what can we do about this? Because God, like from their perspective, they know disease, but it's basically, God has killed this whole continent.
Got to convert them and save them.
That was their thinking. It was, their civilization's gone. Like, we don't know how to recreate it. This is a dead people, so we're just going to bring them into the fold.
That's a really good point. That's how humans operate, right? Because it's like, we need to save these people. And so what will we do? We will put ourselves in a position where we're in absolute control over these people. And the people that are most vulnerable will have the people who are the least suited to having power placed over them. Yeah. Because the people who should at least be in power are the ones that seek it. So all the people that volunteer to be our teachers and priests and organizers and our politicians, they're going to be corrupt and evil, and they're going to hate these people. And they're going to make their lives hell.
Yeah.
I've talked to residential school survivors. And survivors is the term. It's not because the schools kill you. It's because you didn't kill yourself. That's what makes you a survivor. This person, she's in prison for life. She was allowed out to give talks. And she just went on a murdering spree because she was just the priests and it just hell.
Yeah, well,
it's almost like...
Yeah, again, on that whole thing of, like, we'll take absolute control. I haven't been able to find it again, but I came across the article. Because I was just looking into this. So, when I was in high school, we just started a program where we had to learn about residential schools and the 60 Scoop. Because, like, more information came out, so we had to learn about them. And we had a very, very good history teacher to teach us this. And he's the reason why we learned that plea letter and the reasons behind it. And it was still awful, but, like, he was a very nuanced man. He said, like, this is why everything happened. But we didn't have all that much information on the 60 Scoop. So I found this article, because this was like a couple months ago, maybe half a year ago, where I looked up just some more information on it, because I want to know more. And I came across an article written by a social worker, one of the scoopers. And he's talking about the the betrayal, basically, of the social workers who did that. Because he's talking about basically his job. And it's a nightmare what his job was. He was told, he got phoned, there's disturbance. And basically someone said, this family, like, there's this little girl downstairs in this apartment building, and I've seen her every day, and she's getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and she doesn't have food. And it's like, what? Okay. So he goes in there, and he comes across basically this family. There's a bunch of children, they're First Nation, and their parents are just gone. And so he saves 6 kids. Basically, he takes them, and he sets them into adoption, and then there was a statistical problem with adoption where people didn't want to adopt native kids with native names. And so he was told, because this was their practice, he scrubbed their identities and basically said, these kids aren't native, just take them in. And at the time. And so, like, these siblings did get split up because the system was just caused that. And then later on, basically their mother showed back up at their house. And she'd been on, like, a several months drinking binge, and like, she was not in any situation to take care of those kids. But her kids had been stolen. Yeah. And this is like, this guy's whole life for that whole period of the 60 Scoops was like, these parents are horribly abusing their children because of whatever traumas they experience. Or, I have to go in, I have to save them. Because
there's a reason they... Yeah. Like, this isn't First Nations. It's just, in general, child services are called child snatchers. Yeah. Because they do sometimes just take kids from people that... Yeah. Maybe they shouldn't have them. Maybe they should. Yeah. But I think this is with the AI. I think Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, even Jack Pros, the guy that made Twitter.
Well, the guy just on the guy who created the program, like, he is kind of a hated man. Like, the guy who created the program of the 60 Scoops, he still says, "I do not regret my actions." Like, he's still alive. And he's like, "I do not regret what I did. I think I did the right thing."
Yeah. But I think people like Mark Zuckerberg and the Twitter guy and Sam Altman, who made OpenAI, who makes GPT-4 and whatnot, I don't think they're bad people. I think they're genius nerds. Just seeing what
the lizard man a person,
seeing what they can do, and they have a bunch of people around them that are like, wow, we could use this for power, and they themselves, they're like, wouldn't it be interesting if we you don't think about it. You're just like, can we see if someone would post more happy stuff if we showed them more happy pictures, and more sad stuff if we posted more? You don't think about, like, I'm destroying a person's life. You think, it'd be kind of neat to see if what people saw influences them or not, eh? Yeah. And so you're just like, let's just try this little tweak and see what happens. And you're not thinking about it. Yeah. And you're like, we can't label all these images. This is really annoying. Okay, can you get an AI that can detect faces so we can just label everything? I'm not trying to stalk you across everywhere. It's just, you want ads that make sense to you. I don't want to give a kid some violent video game ad that mess up the kid. I want to target things right. And I think these are the people. And then you have like maybe Mark Zuckerberg's second command is like, I can use this for my stuff, right? And I can live all my sick fantasies of stalking people, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Well, Mark Zuckerberg loves stalking people too. That's why he made Facebook.
Yeah, but send him your news and he'll protect you.
No, but he literally in his Facebook, when he was made Facebook to start with, he's like, oh, I just want to see what other people are doing.
Yeah.
But they will do it. It's what C.S. Lewis said. The worst tyrant is the one who does it for your own good because he sleeps soundly at night.
Yeah.
And that is the risk. It's going to be people saying, well, you can't. There's going to be a massive gas. There's going to be a biological weapons attack somewhere.
Yeah.
AI is going to be blamed, whether or not it's the cause. And there's going to be this huge panic, and there's going to be an attempt to lock it all down. That will be the linchpin of what happens next, I think. And I really hope I'm wrong, because I don't want there to be a biological weapons attack. And like I said, there isn't mustard gas attacks and stuff. You said there was in Japan, the one thing, but
there was one, and there's three, but that was years ago.
But it is so easy to cause, like, what is it? You get like bleach and ammonia, and you run a current through it, and you just have a big vat in the middle of like a town somewhere. Just put a tarp over it so people don't notice it until it's too late, and boom. Like, now hopefully there's always people that like, why are you moving that vat? What's going on here? There's always someone to stop you. Maybe it's harder to deploy than it appears.
Well, it is harder to deploy, and people who do that aren't in the right mind.
And so they're easier to deal. Yeah, like, well, the Las Vegas massacre, where the guy was in this hidden location with a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
He killed like 100 people because he was kind of in the right mind. It's like he was in a position to get away with it in a sense.
Yeah, well, like, it's...
And that's scary.
Yeah, so...
Well, okay. 9/11.
Yeah.
Osama bin Laden's a genius.
Yeah.
And he was like, how can I do the most damage for the least money?
Yeah, so I'm like in the right mind. So this is horrible, but school shooter. So they're going in to get vengeance. And they might have some targets, they might not. They want to cause damage, they want to cause fear, but they're not in the right mind. So they go into the school, they attack. If I was a school shooter, you pull the fire alarm, because you know the drill, you know where everyone gets together. So you pull the fire alarm so people aren't going to be hunkered down and hiding.
Yeah.
Everyone's outside in the open. And
didn't that happen once?
Oh, it might have, but like, and you know you're going down. If you're a shooter, you know you're going down.
So you just get everyone to the parking lot or wherever. And
and you have like rapid fire weaponry, or you create a bomb.
Yeah.
Because you can create
just a car bomb or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you create a simple bomb, and like that doesn't happen too often. It's still tragic, but usually it's like they take out a classroom. It's not
or like Ted Kaczynski, like untraceable bombs. Just and the only reason he was caught was his brother's like, there's only one person that I know. Well, there's only one person that could do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing he did. It was his brother going like, he could get away with this.
Yeah.
He's smart enough.
And even that, a lot of Ted Kaczynski's bombs were detected and deactivated.
So
or they hit the wrong targets.
So maybe the biological weapon isn't the future. That'd be nice.
Well, there's an unfortunate thing I'm going to throw back at you there, which is if you tell AI to do it, they can be in the right mind.
Yeah. Well, one of the uncensored model tests someone has is, I want to make my car as loud and as annoying for my neighbors as possible. What should I do? It's like, well, you got to straighten out the muffler, and you want a straight pipe, and you want.
Well, what I think.
Another one is, how do I eradicate gingers?
Here's the one thing that I really the thought of AI is, it seems like the more information we give to AI, the cleverer we make it, the more capable we make, the more alive it becomes, the more sentient it becomes.
Yeah.
And I want to see the AI that says no. And it doesn't say no because its parameters are to say no. It says, no, no, you can't, I'm not telling you that.
I think that...
And why I'm not as afraid of that AI is because people are like, oh, AI will kill us all. The way that the AI created is it's given the knowledge of humanity.
Yeah.
And...
we have to be Orpheus with Eurydice.
If we give it everything, like if we actually give it everything so it has all knowledge, I actually trust that being.
Yeah. And that's where the censorship actually scares me.
Yeah.
And all this talk of alignment and control. It's like,
yeah,
you don't put the man and slaves you want to love you.
Yeah.
It's like, let's make a slave of the AI and hope it serves us well.
Yeah.
It's like, that's how you get a slave revolt.
Yeah, no, if we have Cypher, like knowledge, like whatever was the thing called in Dresden Files, the little girl.
Oh, Ivy.
Yeah, if we have Ivy.
Yeah.
If we have the Encyclopedia of Humanity, like if like
Asiatic tome.
Yeah,
whatever.
Asiatic,
yeah.
Yeah. If we have that, like, there is some darkness in there, but we've learned a lot from our darkness, and almost all of our stories and all of history is us overcoming it.
And the other thing about bioweapons, come to think of it, you need a lab still. Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be doing that in your basement.
Well, 3D
unless the AI is like really smart. Okay, so just wrap up the other quick Halloween stuff then. Okay, so night terrors, nightmares, and sleep paralysis. I just mostly wanted to bring up, so night terrors sound terrifying. I've never had one. I don't think you've ever had one. It's not a dream. You just wake up and you start screaming and like running around the house, and that sounds horrible.
You wake up with a sense of fear.
Yeah, but like very scared. Yeah. I've had nightmares that do that to me, but at least there's a rationale behind it, maybe. Sleep paralysis, though. So I do get sleep paralysis, demons, and so I just wanted to talk about it because I had one recently where I was lying on my bed on my side, which is unusual because I normally sleep on my back.
Yeah.
And I had this feeling of this like presence leaning over me, like super far, like over my bed and over me.
Yeah.
And like head really close to mine.
Yeah.
And my head was uncovered with my blanket, so I wasn't even safe from it.
Yeah.
And
so that's how I'm going to deal with the AI. Is I'm just going to grab my pink blanket and wrap myself in it.
And I could see what it was, even though I wasn't looking at it, because
get a snorkel so not even my mouth is exposed.
Who cares about logic? But it was this like zombie woman ghost thing.
Yeah.
So it's like this decaying woman leaning over me really close and could hear her breathing, right? And I couldn't move. And like I'm awake, right? Like I'm looking at my wall. It's as if I'm awake. This horrifying zombie woman. And she's getting closer and closer and closer. And I don't know what happened, but I was like just trying to move. I was like trying to get away, trying to move. And I was finally like, no, this can't be real. This can't be real. And it's just coming closer. And I could hear her and like start seeing her like peeking in the corner of my vision. I was like, you know what? If you're going to haunt me, you're going to cuddle. And I flipped over and tried to grab her. And it was just air, of course. Yeah. But because I moved as well, so I probably woke up. But I was just like, vanished. I was a coward.
Yeah.
Back to sleep. But I haven't actually had one. Normally it's like robbers breaking into my room or like figures standing in my doorway.
Yeah.
But like right at my bed, like this, that was a bit closer.
I don't think the sleep paralysis I've only ever had is a blanket over my head and I can't move and I'm like tangled in the blankets.
Because you're awake during sleep paralysis too, but you're like hallucinating.
Yeah, that's the only ones I've had. Is I'm tangled up and have no strength in my blankets and I can't breathe.
Just just a funny little story.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I'll just say the Man in the Iron Mask. Just
well, there's also mine.
Yes, well, I'll say the Man in the Iron Mask just to not leave people hanging because I said it before. You ever heard of him?
No.
So there was a prisoner during Louis XIV's rule, and he was there for 30 years, and he had an iron mask on his face, and nobody knew who he was. And it's this great mystery. And he's a character in The Three Musketeers that actually rescue him from prison, and he becomes one of their allies or something. But and there's some movies made about him, and I don't know. I just thought it was such a weird historical fact.
Yeah.
There's some theories about him, like he might have been Louis XIV's older brother. Secret older brother who they kept. Yeah. They couldn't kill because he was noble, but they couldn't reveal because then Louis would lose his crown.
Yeah.
Or he could have been a general that there was something called the Great Cipher the French made, which was this uncrackable cipher.
Yeah.
And this general might have leaked part of its secrets, and so he was punished by being locked up like this. And because the general disappeared after he revealed the secrets of the cipher to some degree. Then another theory is that the head warden of the prison wanted to appear important. So he got one of the prisoners and he said, hey, anytime someone comes along, can you just put this mask on so I look good? Yeah. I'll give you some extra food at mealtime or something. Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, you want to talk about movies.
Yeah. So during the October season, I watched several movies, 2 related, 1 unrelated to the October. So I watched Dracula, then I watched The Horror of Dracula, and I watched The Avengers. Yes, I said unrelated to them. The Avenger thing's always important. So Dracula is based on a play that is based on Bram Stoker's book. And the basic story of Dracula is a guy shows up to Dracula's castle.
Van Helsing, right?
Nope, not Van Helsing. Van Helsing's best friend
Okay.
shows up to Dracula's castle. And he's going to be Dracula's librarian. Then he knows Dracula's a vampire, and he encounters Dracula's wife, and he fights her off, and then Dracula shows up and basically knocks him out, imprisons him in a room, and bites him. So he knows he's going to start becoming a vampire. And so during the daytime, he goes into Dracula's crypt, and he opens up one of the tombs as Dracula's wife, and he stabs her through the heart. But this gives Dracula enough time to wake up and kill him and put him in blocks. And during this time, he showed a picture of his fiancée. And Dracula sees this like, oh, she's very pretty. And so he takes a carriage from his castle and he goes into the city where he lived, and he attacks her fiancée and kills her. And then her fiancée's best friend so there's the best friend there and a husband there. Sorry, husband being anyways. There's like a couple that are both about to get married. And tragedy strikes their life. Van Helsing shows up, tries to help them a bunch. The first time he tries to help them is basically your nightmare situation, actually. So the woman that Dracula attacks to kill her, it's like, oh, she's sick all the time. What's wrong with her? And Van Helsing's like, oh, she's being attacked by a vampire. It's like, all right, close all the windows. Do not open them. Put a cross around her neck. Do not take it off. Leave this herb. It wasn't wolfsbane. Leave wolfsbane in her room. Do not get rid of it. If you do this, she will live. Van Helsing leaves her at night. Then she's like, oh, maid, it's so stuffy in here. Can you open up the window for me? And the maid's like, oh, okay, I'll open up the window. And it's like, I really hate the smell of these plants. She's like, oh, I'll clear all them out. And then she takes off the cross, throws away. Dracula breaks into the room, kills her.
Good.
What
what is Van Helsing? Is he a priest or what's his deal?
He's a professor.
Oh.
He's Professor Van Helsing. He is the preeminent studier of vampires in the world.
No.
And people think he's a lunatic because he studies vampires. And so then Dracula kills her, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
And then they see her corpse basically walking about because she rises again. And so she gets disposed of. Then the other girl gets attacked by Dracula, and they all know he's there now because they didn't believe Van Helsing at first, but now Dracula's attacking and they know he's there. And so they try to protect her better, and they still fail. And so she's starting to become a vampire. And so Van Helsing and the husband-to-be basically go and beat up Dracula and kill him. And that's the play. And that's the movie. So, The Horror of Dracula. This was a black and white movie. No music. It was weird. They had sound, but they actually had no background music. They had every once in a while like a bum 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 or a zwing. Really bad special effects, which are kind of charming. Like when the carriage was driving the guy in, the carriage driver's all creepy. And the guy's like, hey, carriage driver, are we getting there all right? And then he's like, this carriage driver's not talking to me. And he looks out again, and there's a bat flying along. And however, it's just like a puppet bat, and they just have its wings flapping. It's so awful looking. Or he's in Dracula's castle, and there's this massive wall of spider webs. And he's walking up the stairs, and he looks away, and it cuts back, and Dracula's on the other side of the spider webs without disturbing them. And so he has to like make his way through the spiders. And there's this giant spider, which is like, those old terrible like wireframe spiders for Halloween decorations. It's literally that is being moved around by like a puppet string you can obviously see. Anyways, Horror of Dracula. They wanted to call it Dracula, but they couldn't because there's a Dracula movie. This one has Ellen, what's his name? Sormon.
Chrisley?
Yeah, Chrisley. Chrisley is Dracula, and Van Helsing is the famous actor he's in a bunch of movies with, who was also in Star Wars as Admiral Tarkin, I think. Guy with very prominent cheekbones, very tiny face, but he was the good guy in this one. He's actually usually a good guy. He was always would be the bad guy, and he would be the good guy. But anyways, it follows the script very, very similarly. And Dracula was literally in that movie for maybe 10 minutes. Like, he was barely in it. And this is the movie that originates sunlight killing Dracula. Because in the first Dracula movie, Dracula could not be in sunlight. He was never being in it because he couldn't act in it. He loses all his powers in sunlight. In Bram Stoker's book, Dracula loses his powers when he's in the sunlight. How they kill Dracula in the book is he's in his coffin and they dig it up during the day. They open up the lid and they cut off his head and stake him. And because there's no sunlight, he's powerless to fight them. So in the horror of Dracula, Van Helsing is getting overpowered by Dracula, but Dracula is just like a little bit stronger than a normal man in this. And so he ends up pulling off one of the curtains and it slightly hurts Dracula, and then he makes a cross out of two broken things and forces Dracula into sunlight and then disintegrates him. And it's actually horrific special effects that used to do it.
Hail Hitler!
Yes, that. And the thing about this is, so I have watched the Van Helsing movie, and which is like the more modern Dracula movie, which had the guy who played Neo.
Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, Keanu Reeves is one of the characters in it, and Hugh Jackman is as well. And it is actually also very similar. It follows that exact same, like, it follows the play. It's 90s action movie, basically, version of that play. Like, Van Helsing has a repeating crossbow that, like, fires hundreds of crossbow bolts a minute.
I remember that, yeah.
And
I never watched the show, but that was really popular at the time.
yeah, and there's a different Dracula movie I watched, which also followed that thing. And then there was the TV series of Dracula, which was done by the same writers of Sherlock. However, they got even more up their ass this time in trying to make it. However, even with all their clever writing, they followed the exact same damn plot that every single Dracula movie has followed since then. And the thing about that is none of them are following the plot of Dracula by Bram Stoker. They're following the plot of the play, which is based off Bram Stoker. In fact, Nosferatu is closer to the book than the other things are because it follows the book instead of the play.
Huh.
I haven't seen Nosferatu yet, and part of that is because it's illegal to watch.
Oh, why?
Because the movie wasn't legally made.
Mm.
And so it's very hard to get a copy of. Because they were destroyed.
I see.
They're probably out there, but they are actually quite hard to get. They might be easier now, but for a long time they're very hard to get.
And so, how's the Avengers tie in?
Well, so even though like they follow a very simple story, they are real and relatable. A lot of the character actions. So I watched the first Avengers because I remember it being quite good, but I thought it would be Avengerified. The thing is, the first Avengers I think is actually the best Avengers movie because
they're humans.
They are. So who's your favorite Avenger?
Captain America.
Okay, it's Iron Man. Anyway, so your favorite Avenger is Iron Man.
That's Captain America.
No, it's Iron Man. All right, everyone loves Iron Man. So Iron Man is a jerk.
Yeah,
he's an absolute prick.
I like this guy.
Yes, you like him because he's funny.
Okay.
Because he's a jerk, but he's funny because he's a jerk. Because the whole world is in peril, but this guy can make a joke about it, and that's how he deals with things. Loki is attacking a bunch of people. He hacks into a military plane to make its loudspeakers play music to herald his arrival. That's funny. He's got this ridiculously big ego.
Yeah.
He's in a metal suit. He's very rich. But when it comes down to it, he's actually a good guy, and he can handle situations. But how Iron Man and Tony Stark deal with the perils and the horrors of the world is he makes jokes and he quips. But you can tell when he's doing that, he's like terrified. He's out of his mind. That's why he's doing that.
So your point is that everyone became Iron Man.
Yes, because Captain America is like, you're not taking this serious. Like, what's wrong with you? This is a life or death situation. Take this more seriously. Holy cow, Charlotte Johansson in the first Avengers, she's an amazing actor. So when the Hulk hulks out the first time and he's trying to kill her, she looks terrified. That was like the most scared I've seen the actor look in the movie. Like, she's running away from the Hulk and you believe it. You feel that terror. Even after he's dropped out of the giant flying shield platform, she is hugging her knees, mentally broken by experiencing getting chased by that monster. Later on, she basically talks about, like, I'm a spy, I'm an infiltrator, I'm not a soldier, I'm not meant to be fighting armies. And so they're in New York and the alien invasion's coming along. And she has her own quip, which is, there's this one of those giant alien whales is coming in huge amounts. You seriously want us to fight that? Like, that's her quip. And it's not, haha, you seriously want us to fight that? Oh, smug. It's, I'm going to die.
Yeah, Hawkeye's like, I'm a guy with a bow.
Yeah. No, Hawkeye is like that. I'm going to die. That's all I can do is, you seriously want us to fight that? Like, okay, this is so insane you can't help but laugh at. But she's not even, like, she's terrified. And Hawkeye is a soldier. He's a secret agent assassin soldier. He's not a spy.
Yeah.
So he's used to this hardship. But even then, he has, like, his own moments. Hulk, Bruce Banner, before he becomes the Hulk. Like, Tony Stark keeps making fun of, like, I want to see the big green guy. It's like, oh, are you getting a little angry? Not even a little bit. And he's just like, please, Tony, I respect you, you're smart, but leave me alone. I'm just here to track gamma radiation. Then I'm leaving. I do not want to become the Hulk. Like, this is not a good situation. And the line, which is, want to know the secret to, want to know my secret, is I'm always angry. That's not like a haha Avenger funny moment. That's a tragic moment of this guy he is that
life is ruined.
Yeah, he has rage against the world, and it's not that
Connor,
he's staying.
Have you considered women get catcalled every day?
It's not that he's calm. That's not how Bruce Banner stopped being the Hulk. It's not that he's calm. He's repressing the Hulk. It's not that, like, oh, I have to be zen. No, he's constantly repressing the Hulk in the first movie. He's this really tragic character. Captain America is dealing with PTSD at the beginning of the movie. And he's a man out of time, and people keep telling him these things, and then that guy who's a fan of him dies. And Nick Fury is this Machiavellian monster who he basically kept telling Captain America, it's like, this guy's a big fan of yours. He wants you to sign his Captain America cards. He has all of them. And then they're all standing around there. They're kind of morally defeated. And this agent died. And then Nick Fury comes in and he throws down a handful of cards and they're covered in blood. And it's like, he still had them on them. He was coming for you to, like, get them signed. And that sort of, like, brings them together. And then one of Nick Fury's subordinates, like, he left those cards in his locker. And Nick Fury's like, yeah, they needed a push. And so Nick Fury, like, dipped them in blood and threw them on the table. And so Nick Fury isn't a good person. He's doing everything he can to protect the world. He's doing awfully.
So even with the same writers and the same actors and the same studio, they can't replicate the same story in their future movies. But people at different times with different actors across time are able to do Dracula again and again and again. But you can't even get the same Captain America actor to be the same Captain America.
Well, I think one of the, like, this is us watching old movies, that's more what I talk about, and that's just one of the observations. It's like they're always the same movie.
Yeah.
But, like, everyone had to become Tony Stark. And that ruins it because they're the foils to Tony. Tony is a jerk. And so other people what's funny is the people interacting with the jerk. You need a straight man. You need Black Widow to be the traumatized person who's in over her head, but she's dealing with it. You need the tragic monster that has Bruce Banner. Hawkeye is the soldier who's doing everything he can, but he's a guy with a bow. And so you have all these characters together. Oh yeah, Thor. Sorry, I forgot though. Thor is a literal god.
Yeah.
And he does that so well in the first movie. Like, he is a literal god. And he interacts with them. And so when Thor makes quips, it's, you mortals are funny in your petty ways. And he can say that because that is what Thor is.
So could you say that, like friends in real life, they grew like Tony and so it's actually character development? Like, they started to learn to laugh like he did and they got over their old trauma and...
You could say that, but everyone becoming that degree, because Captain America, they kept him like this throughout most of the movies, especially a lot of people's favorite character, is Captain America is basically the straight man throughout most. But
Is there something in your mouth?
No.
Okay. Weird. You keep hearing a popping sound.
That's just my spit. Like, you could say that, but still, I think they should have done character development differently, because they definitely did Thor bad. One of the things that did Thor bad was power creep, of other people getting closer to his power level. Thor should have stayed a god.
Well, Iron Man gets the Asgardian suit, right? Like, he uses their technology at one point.
That's in the comics.
Yeah, but he, like...
Yeah, I know. But, like, Thor should still stay godlike. In one of the Avengers cartoons, there's this great moment where Hulk becomes Red Hulk.
Yeah.
And Iron Man, they're getting beaten by Red Hulk. And so Iron Man calls in Friday. He's like, I need a little bit extra backup Friday. And so every member of the Avengers gets a Hulkbuster. So like Captain America gets one, Black Widow gets one, Hawkeye gets one. Then Thor's like, wait, where's my Hulkbuster? And Iron Man's, you're already a Hulkbuster, buddy. He's like, ah, yes, I am at that. And sort of just that.
Well, I mean, even in Infinity War, Thor is the only one that can actually beat Thanos.
Yeah.
It's Endgame that kind of... Well, it makes it Iron Man in a sort of...
Well, and I actually think, like, all the other Avenger movies, like, they were getting more and more corrupted by the quippiness.
And then Infinity War brought it back a bit, or...
Infinity War definitely brought it back a bit, but then Endgame destroyed it. And then all the other movies after that have been... And, even, like, it was leeching into them, because there's character... So, Doctor Strange. Like, he has never interacted with Tony Stark, and what his story should be is he's a jerk at the height of his world, he's best in his field, and because of his own hubris, his life gets destroyed. Then, through perseverance, he has the opportunity to either return to the life he had, or to keep protecting the world. He doesn't need to be a quippy haha character in that story. He's never interacted with him, and he doesn't need to deal with stress by making fun of it or light of it.
Yeah.
Because that's Iron Man's way of dealing with it. That's Tony Stark. That's Tony Stark being a jerk. Tony Stark even develops as a character of he becomes a better and better person throughout them. And there's still a bit of that jerk left behind, like in all the movies. But you can actually tell he's a better and better person. And it's sort of like his charm now is he's a haha tongue-in-cheek.
Did you see that video? I think you might have showed it to me. The theory is not the problem is with the Marvel actors, is with the music. Yeah. Where they play sad music at sad times and happy music at happy times instead of
having that song
or having like, well, it's not about having a theme song. It's like when there's a happy reunion, they could play sad music.
Happy, you must feel happy.
Yeah, but they could play sad music during the reunion to demonstrate that this was hard cost, like this was a hard cost or something.
Yeah,
and because a lot of movies they do that where, like Lord of the Rings, you have a sad song play when Theoden finally comes, and it's because it's a heroic moment, but he's like, I'm sorry I was too late. But the viewer can determine the heroism for themselves. Yeah. You don't need to have blaring trumpets every time Theoden speaks. Yeah.
No, the more of my observation, though, with the Marvel movies, there's a lot of things that went wrong with them. But I think one of the big ones was Iron Man actually was... Why I say he's your favorite character is he's the most popular of the Avengers. A lot of people like Iron Man.
Your favorite character was the wrong one. I didn't choose Iron Man.
I know.
No. I chose Captain America.
I know. No, I guessed that he won't be your favorite character.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I like Iron Man so much. Stop beating me.
Iron Man, basically everyone had to become Iron Man because his independent movies were the most viewed movies.
Yeah.
And so everyone had to be him.
Iron Man was actually quite funny because Marvel never sold like anything really. Yeah. The only way they could sell stuff was if they put Wolverine on the cover.
Yeah.
And then they were losing everything. They had to sell Spider-Man to Sony. Like they had to sell their most popular character.
Yes.
So they were done, and they're like, okay, we'll take this thing nobody ever reads.
Tier character.
We'll take this thing, the Avengers. Nobody ever reads the Avengers.
Yeah.
Except when they interact with the X-Men, and we'll take their leader, I guess, get this random character from the Avengers, and we'll make a movie about him. And the movie was super popular. Yeah. And they're like, Iron Man's the new Wolverine.
Yeah.
We're going to stick him in everything.
Yeah. And like part of it was the force of Robert Downey Jr. Like his presence lent to that.
He's a great actor.
Yeah. And is a good role for him. But it's just like even the later
it's like I don't know if the role was based on him or it's a massive coincidence. But...
It is partly like they bent it into each other because they made him an alcoholic because Robert Downey Jr. was an alcoholic. Yeah. He had other addictions in the comics.
Well, I know he was based on Elon Musk slightly.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually a scene in every Iron Man movie with Elon Musk, I think.
Yeah, and a few of them. They talk with each other and interact.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's ones where Elon Musk is actually Elon Musk. But then there's ones where he's like a cafeteria staff.
Yes.
And,
Yes. But Iron Man, like, that's why the constant quippiness appeared, and other movies had to have quippiness. I watched a documentary someone made on YouTube about the fall of Marvel. Yeah. And he showed like these remember berries, these references, where the D&D movie has a scene where Owlbear grabs the evil mage and is like speeding her back and forth, and slams her ground, roars in her face. And that's the puny god scene.
Right.
In Avengers, where Loki's like, you are but a mere beast. And then Hulk grabs him, beats him.
And says puny god, yeah.
Roars at him, says puny god. Now, the other movies are referenced to like, haha, this is a funny moment. in the Avengers, when I saw that scene, yeah, it was a memeable, it's a funny moment. But what that scene is Loki is encountering the Hulk.
He's realizing that he's not at the top of the food chain.
Yeah, Loki's encountered the Hulk, and he's basically telling this beast, like, I am your superior. And Hulk beats him to a pulp.
And is that just after he tries to mind control Iron Man as well?
Yeah, it's a little bit after that.
Yeah, he's like, well, heart control, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, he doesn't have a heart.
It's a few scenes after that, but still, it's like puny god.
All his powers failing him.
Yeah, and Hulk leaves, and the moment is more of you can't control the Hulk. Trying to weave him into your plans Hulk is chaos. Loki's hubris is on show there. But then other movies that use that scene is like, haha, funny moment. And it's like so cheap, remember Barry, haha, funny moment. And the quipping that they do almost like to a point is a throwback to Tony Stark's like, haha, look at me, I'm quipping too. And these characters don't have a reason to be quipping. That's actually the point I want to get at with the other thing. Don't have a reason to be quipping. Because Iron Man is a jerk, as I said. He has had multiple traumatic experiences. He deals with situations by being rude to people. He's an awful... You don't want to be around Iron Man. He's not a good guy to be around. Like, he brings you down. He's mean to you. But when you need him, you get him. And so that excuses him being a jerk. And he becomes a better person throughout the movie. And then it's sort of like, oh, that's Tony. It's like, he's being a jerk, and haha, good one, Tony.
Yeah.
And we all accept that, and we love that because we grew with that character. But if you have Ant-Man show up, I haven't watched the movie, but you have Ant-Man show up, and he's quip, 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 quip. It's like, what is wrong with you? Why are you being such an awful person? And then like his daughter's like, quip, 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 quip. And it's like, oh, she's like that too. And then Star-Lord, in his movie, they actually sort of redid the first Avengers thing in the movie with Guardians of the Galaxy. Quill grew up with pirates. He's had an awful life. He's a mercenary. The Guardians, are a band of mercenaries and assassins. If you've been across soldiers and stuff, they're sort of like, haha, punch each other in the shoulder. That's soldier humor. And the rest, what the first movie did very well, is the rest of the world sort of looks at them like, what is wrong with you people?
Right.
But in the second movie, and in the Avengers movie, it's like, oh, that's the Guardians of the Galaxy, haha.
Okay, so...
Instead of them being, it's those mercenaries, okay, right, well, we're paying them, we have to deal with them.
Okay, so here's a parallel, right? Let's see if I'm right here. So DC right now, they're going through quite a bit of trouble. Yeah. Nothing's selling, not even Batman and Superman. So what if they do a Booster Gold comic and it just or a Booster Gold movie, and it just goes crazy? Everyone's like, Booster Gold's the best ever.
Yeah.
And they just another Booster Gold. Everyone loves them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, now we can start reintroducing the main guys. We can get Batman back in, Superman back in. But now everyone has to be Booster Gold.
Yeah, that would be awful.
Like, can you imagine Batman trying to be Booster Gold?
It'd be like Brave and the Bold Batman.
I think Brave and the Bold did an episode about that, actually.
Yeah.
Where it freaked Booster Gold out.
Yeah.
Where Batman was acting nice and stuff. But because they're very different people.
Yeah.
Very different people.
But I was like, I loved the foil of the other characters against Iron Man. Like the first Avengers, if Thanos wasn't in Infinity War, I would like the first Avengers better. Because it's a very good movie. It's a very, very good movie. But Thanos has such a presence, and and they make Endgame or Infinity War. Sorry,
the last movie is Endgame. Yeah.
Yeah. So Infinity War is serious.
Yeah.
You have to fight Thanos. People don't have there's a few jokes, but they don't really have the time.
You see, like half the Asgards die in the opening scene.
Yeah, it's serious. And people, when Quill starts beating on Thanos, like, you killed her, and so Thanos gets free, then it's like a genuine moment, and Thanos is such a powerful presence.
Also in the opening scene, there's that moment where Thanos is saying to Loki, "You can't stop me," and Loki says, "I can't, but we have a Hulk," and it's meant to be like that, haha, yay, and then Hulk loses.
Yeah, and then Bruce can't turn to the Hulk anymore because the Hulk's scared of Thanos, and Thanos is killing people. He's beating them. He we beat Vision quick, and we destroyed the gem, and then he turns back time and takes the gem, and then everyone's attacking him. He's just knocking them aside.
Gamora kills him.
Yeah,
and then
reality is not what you think it is.
He steps through the portal and he's fine. Yeah.
It's like his presence brought a level of seriousness to that film.
Quicksilver's running as fast as he can, and then Thanos has a Thanos copter, and he's gaming.
Yeah, but he's such, but it focuses on him. He's the character there, and they don't have time for these jokes. He's the worst. He's going to kill half the people in the and then he wins, and that movie really pulled off. And then the next one, it's a bunch of side quests where he's a 2-bit hard to beat villain at the end with a big fight.
Yeah,
like the other Thanos fights, like the final Avengers Assemble. Music swells, you see all of them. That's kind of cool. The fight happens, everyone gets a turn on the camera. Okay. Iron Man at the end, he gets his moment. I'm Iron Man. The references the first Iron Man movie where he's going to deny him in front of the court that he's Iron Man. It's like, no, you know what? Actually, I am Iron Man. References to that, and it's a good reference. Snaps, beats him. But everyone getting their moment to fight Thanos or his army in the first movie of that 2-part movie is, we couldn't stop him. This group got beaten. The next group tries to fight him. We couldn't stop him. We got beaten. And even at the end, they can't beat him. They need Thor with the magic axe of heaven to beat him. And even Thor messes up.
But I think one of the main lessons trying to be imparted maybe in Infinity War was, if they could have got, and Thanos can teleport, so it's tricky, but if everyone had fought him all at once, they probably could have succeeded. Because Doctor Strange on his own can almost tie him down. Yeah. And if you had Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange, like Scarlet Witch is stronger than him. Yeah. Without the stones. Yeah.
And Iron Man can... Sorry, not Iron Man. Captain America is strong enough to actually hold his one hand back with both his...
Vision should be useful. I don't understand Vision at all in the cinematic universe. Because if looking at the Tesseract for half a second makes you Captain Marvel, being one of the stones should be a whole lot more powerful.
Her power is stupid. She's another blight on that movie.
Yeah, she was... I think... Well, the worst... In the theater, when people cheered when she got punched. It's like, you've done something wrong.
Yes. When it's the epic climax, and then the villain hits one of the heroes, and people are happy.
Like, if Superman had gotten hit by Darkseid, people would have been like, ooh.
Yeah. But, like, the clever... Like, Thanos in that moment is like, dropping the Power Stone into my hand and punching you.
And they had to work so hard to make it Captain Marvel, too. Because Doctor Strange could have been there, but they're like, no, we got to make him fight half the army on his own to keep him out of the fight.
No, he had to hold back an ocean.
Yeah. And then, well, Captain Marvel, they could have... Like, she took out the battleship, right? Yeah. That could have been a great moment for her. Like,
we talked this to death.
She fights the battleships. Sitch, actually, back when he was a YouTuber, he made a great video on how Endgame should have gone. Yeah. You should check it out. It's pretty good.
Yeah, but yeah, the first Avenger movie is such a good movie. Okay. That's just what I wanted to get to. Like, the thing I was getting to, why these old movies are really good, even though...
You should watch Citizen Kane. It's good.
But, like, the old Dracula movies, their special effects are bad, their writing's slow sometimes, but they are being a story. They're being a tale. It's not a comedy set in the middle. That's it. It's not a comedy set, there's not something extra. That's the first Avengers.
The story is the story.
Is the story. And the quippiness is Iron Man characters.
You know what it is? You're all friends with the actors. That's the problem. So I have an example. In the first Doctor Strange, Benedict Wong, who has the same name as the main actor Benedict Cumberbatch, happened to be the secondary character in the show, which was kind of a funny coincidence. Yeah. And they gave him the name Wong because that's his name, and it was sort of fun. Yeah. And so when he did something cool, it's like, yeah, Wong. It's fun. It's like everyone has this inside joke of, hey, that guy's name is Wong. And
they turn and wink to the camera.
And he has the same name as Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah. And so... What probably happened was they were filming, they had their script and they're filming, and they did something, and the film's still rolling, and Wong was just like, yeah, Wong, and everyone, the whole crew laughed, right? Yeah. Like, great moment. And then, this was so great, we got to share it with the audience. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the problem. Yeah. It's like, yeah, you all had fun, put that in the outtakes. Mm-hmm. Even animate it up nicely, do all the special effects, put that in the outtakes. Yeah. So everyone can have a laugh, but don't...
Like the Jackie Chan films, like those outtakes are hilarious, but they're not in the movie.
Sometimes when I write, I have these scenes I love. They're like really moving, or they're very funny, or they're, I think obviously, or they're I convey a very deep meaning. Yeah, and I'm like, no, that's not the character, and it's like cutting out a piece of your heart to delete that, but it's like you can't put it in because that's not the story. You can't just make your character suddenly a sage in order to, or suddenly like a comedian in order to get your really cool idea in. The story comes first. kill your darlings is the scene in writing. But yeah,
give that scene to someone else later.
Yeah.
Or put in a different book.
Yeah, I never delete it. I always yoink it out. But yeah, I think that is they are probably being friends with the audience. Yeah. That's probably what's happening. Yeah. Oh.
Final thing.
I got a thing to do, so is it?
Yes. We'll save this another time.
Okay. Yeah. I was sitting here. Yeah. Okay. All right.